Domo, welcome everybody. This is the last of my writing Zatsus. I swear you won't have to hear me talk rambling on about my silly little book for much longer. This is gonna be the last of it. So yeah, Domo Surveillance Burb, Domo Aviator, yes, you're just in time for the weeb novel. Nippy! Domo People, Domo Cosmic, yeah, thanks for 100 biddies. Kita! Domo Vivi, welcome. And I see you on YouTube as well, Jade Bun Bun. Yes, thank you, hello, welcome everybody. Yeah, you actually gotta get around to reading. Yeah, I have it pinned on Twitch. For those of you watching on YouTube for whatever reason, yeah, you can find it somewhere. This isn't the first stream. No, everything's all archived on YouTube though. Like literally, if you look up writing Zatsu, you can look all the way back. So basically, to summarize everything, since we got people that are like, "What the hell's even going on?" So 2 months ago, back in November, like the beginning of November, I decided, you know what? I haven't written anything in a few years. I want to write a book. Because it's like, because, you know, when you're doing something like streaming, that takes up a lot of time and you're like, well, now I don't have time for other things. But it's like, what if I did the thing that I wanted to do, but I did it live? So I did, and now it's done. Right before the deadline. The deadline's the 13th, so I finished it before the deadline. Yeah, I wrote a novel in 2 months. You can see the link right there, the URL. So yeah, so wound up being a little under 40,000 words, which is good. 15 chapters. It's like the contest said they wanted at least 25,000, like 25 to 75,000, so I hit their word limit. It's like, could I have made the story longer? Absolutely. But at this point I was more prioritizing getting it done than anything else. And of course there was the reoccurring question of, do I need to make it longer than necessary? And my brain would usually be like, no, just focus on finishing it. So that just be how it wound up. Yeah, exactly. No fluff. Yeah, exactly. Brevity is the soul of wit. Yeah, and I also figured out how to fix multi-chat on OBS, which is why I'm able to see YouTube and Twitch now. For some reason, Stream Elements was not set to be a moderator on YouTube. That's why I wasn't getting my messages. But I fixed that, so we're fine. So yeah, I'll read the summary here, and then we'll go over the last 5 chapters. Should have time to read all of them. They are long, but we'll go over them. I'll fix my typos. You guys can give me feedback. You know how it goes. And I'll talk about my thoughts and why I made it a fucking tragedy. It's like, we're getting to that part. It's like, gee, I wonder when the military war, survival, and tragedy part of this story kicks in. The last 5 chapters. So yeah, to summarize, so the question for the people that just came in here, what is the story even about? So I have the synopsis. After the Great Famine killed millions worldwide, the United Nations came together to ensure that no one would ever face starvation again. All focus was put into advancing technology to give everyone across the globe easier access to food. You only needed the right machines and a piece of land in order to grow your own crops, regardless of the actual condition of the land, and the setup was so simple even a child could do it. Yeah, the story is about characters and the characters do things and experience stuff. Yeah, Aurora, welcome, just in time. I'm going over the synopsis for the novel I finished, so here it is. However, this causes the value of the land to become worth its size in gold. Conflicts arose between countries, companies, and religious organizations over who owned rights to where. Soon, those who would have died from starvation instead perished from being caught between the crossfire over territory. Nevertown is a sanctuary in the desert, with the next closest civilization being the big city Glamour 50 miles away. All lost children separated and injured by war find themselves here. The owner of Nevertown wants to protect these children, but will he be able to? And then, since the contest wanted you to specify, because the theme is like alt history, so it's like, So I explained it's modern times, slightly in the future. I'm going to roughly say 2030, 23x. Yeah, so it's like, yeah, so simply even a child could do it. It's like, when's a physical copy coming out? Never. You think I got money for that? Like, will he be able to? No. So yeah, it's modern times changed due to a major famine in history. Technology surrounding farming and agriculture is so advanced even children use it. And so when you go onto the link and you'll see chapters and details, under details, there's a showcase. So what I did for the sake of convenience for everybody, since there's so many characters, I made a reference sheet. And then I realized I made a typo in the reference sheet. And now I'm like, well, that's just going to have to sit there forever. Yeah, Domo Red Dragon's Age. Welcome. How you doing? You can publish for free on Amazon. Yeah, I'm sure there's probably a catch, though. I'd have to double check that. Yeah, the quality's kind of sus. Yeah, it's one of those things where I'm just like, I'm not worried about it. It's like, do you need money? You do be a big streamer. It's like, what do I look like? I'm made of money? Like, heavens no. It's like, I'm lucky if I manage to make the bare minimum for Twitch to send me money. Because there's a minimum for that. But yeah, no, it's like, since there's so many characters, I made a reference sheet that you can find now. My overachieving brain originally thought of just drawing the characters, but it's like, wait, I don't know how to fucking draw. So I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that. So instead I just made an Excel sheet and then copy pasted it. You're looking at D&D stuff, cool. So yeah, I can see the names, the ages, hair and eye color. Don't worry about background too much. It's like really the thing about background is just wondering what their is just to know what their skin and body shape and stuff look like. That's it. So it's like, don't overthink it. And then quick little notes just to be like, yeah, this person's does this thing in this place at this time. So you can be like, oh yeah, they're that person. Because there's so many fucking characters. That was the hardest thing about this book, was juggling all these characters. And that is the thing. Could I have written more chapters about these characters and maybe flesh them out more? Yes. But I just wanted this done. And considering this is a tragedy, you're going to understand another reason why I didn't go crazy fleshing out a lot of these characters. Do some characters have little bits of development here and there? Yes, but of course, to only as much as I could get in there. Yeah, speaking of D&D, you got 2 different campaigns. Ooh, 9 to 10 people. That's a lot. Yeah, good luck with that. That sounds awesome. Have fun. Yeah, it is a tragedy. So it's like take your bets. Take your bets right now, seeing who survives at the end of this. Because you're going to find out. That's what we're going to go over today. Yeah, so I've read most of these chapters on stream or written them. Some I haven't. Because I know there was like a gap in time where it's like I kind of stopped streaming because I was like, yeah, I see some people might be losing interest because I'm in the middle of the story now, and the problem with jumping in and when I'm in the middle of writing a story, people might not be interested. You wish you had people to play D&D with? Yeah, I used to have people to play D&D with, but then COVID happened, so I know that feel. I've had a bard sitting in my little D&D phone app for like 5 years now that I want to use, but he's just been sitting there, unfortunately, collecting dust. So I know that feel. But yeah, so I was like, you know what? Let me just focus on finishing it, and then we can go over everything else. Because it's like I went up to like 9 chapters of streaming, and then I was like, yeah, I see people are losing interest. People are either lost or confused or haven't caught up. So I was like, all right, let's back it up a bit. Let me just finish. So yeah, so we're gonna go over the last third. Yeah, it's like yeah, it's like, that is a lot of people. Yeah, I got the heart to kill the kids. I do, yeah. I'll explain why, again, the reason why I couldn't discuss my inspiration for writing a story is because it would be spoilers. Ooh, you're making a stew on one of those days? Yeah, that sounds nice. Yeah, Domo, you're welcome. So yeah, let me read the last 5 chapters. If they are long though, so Maybe I'll get through all of them in a couple of hours. Maybe I won't. Chapter 10 is going to be super long. Because chapter 10 is a flashback chapter. And it's the longest chapter out of all these chapters. Ooh, straight from a D&D cookbook. That sounds cool. Yeah, inspired by based pogness. Yeah. That's one way to put it. Yeah, so it's like, to put it in perspective, pretty much all the other chapters are on average like 2,000 to like 2,500 words a chapter approximately. Yeah, inspired by war crimes. This one though, this one is 4,400 words. So this is the longest chapter. Could I have split it in half? Yes. Did I want to? No. So I didn't. So you get the whole fucking backstory of Santo and his friends all in one fucking chapter because I fucking said so. Yeah, this is why the Geneva Convention exists. Exactly. So yeah, let me drink some water and I'll stop. I'll stop delaying the inevitable. Santo closed the door to his office behind him after Judas walked in first. Judas sat himself right on Santo's desk, crossing his legs with a smug smirk that showed zero remorse or respect. Santo gave him a disapproving stare as he folded his arms. Would you like to explain yourself? Santo asked. Nope. So Judas is being a little shit again. Oh yeah, I should put a warning for this chapter. There's implied bad things happening to children in this chapter, but it's implied. No explicit detail, but I figured I'd give you guys a warning in advance. It's implied. You can put two and four together, but I figured I'll just warn you in advance. Santo sighed, knowing where this is going. We agreed on letting you leave Nevertown for trips if you behaved. Is that not a good enough reward for you? Judas shrugged his shoulders. It is. That's all I want. But you realize you'll be grounded for this, correct? Meaning you won't be going anywhere? That's not fair! Judas shouted angrily as he slammed his hands on the desk. They're the ones messing with me! Why should I be punished for fighting back? Judas, they're children. They were playing. You could have told them to stop. Instead, you made John cry again. He's going to become scared of you. As he should be. Yeah, you put Stand By Me in the middle of all Quiet in the Western Front. Stand by me. Santo took a deep breath to maintain his composure, then seated himself in the chair Judas had completely ignored. It's like, there's chairs in his office. You've been getting along well with Timmy. The two of you have been attached to the hip since you arrived. It's because you've been so helpful getting him out of his shell that I know you can be good when you want to. I'm not asking you to be friends with everyone, but can you at least extend that kindness you showed to him to the others? Even an apology would be a start. No, I hate them. Then you're grounded for the rest of the month. Judas groaned as loud and dramatic as possible. Oh, come on! Okay, fine. I can say sorry. Just don't ground me. And you'll tell the children to leave you alone instead of attacking them? Yes. Then we can lower it to the rest of the week. But next time will be a month if you act up again. No exceptions. Judas turned his head and huffed. Whatever. His eyes then caught sight of the locked metal cabinets. You got my record over there? This is an incident going to be written down on it? No, you don't have to worry about that, Santo said. I keep my important documents over there. Like what? Oh, you know, deeds, licenses, forms, boring adult things. And it's all locked up? Yeah, story about being children, among other things. But yeah, just to recap, I just realized I should probably have to just open in another tab. Judas is the spy sent by Agramidas, so it's like, gee, I wonder why he's asking about the important cabinets. Santo nodded and pulled the silver keycard out of his pocket. It has a slot for the keycard. That makes it impossible to pick the lock. Judas's eyes focused on the shiny object being waved around like a cat watching a bird in flight. You really like to keep it secure, huh? I do. A little too much, I'd say, Judas said while rubbing his previously injured arms. That spring trap almost ripped my arms off. Again, I am sorry for that. However, I did warn you, even showed you where the traps were. If you wanted to use my office, you could have simply asked. I don't get it. Why go through these kind of lengths? Unless... Judas uncrossed his legs and leaned back on the desk with a suggestive grin. You got something to hide? Something dirty? Santo immediately stood up and lifted Judas up by the armpits, forcing him to get off the desk. Judas was taken back by this reaction, but even more so by the look on Santo's face. He expected him to be angry or disgusted by a suggestion. Instead, his face had been twisted into deep sadness, almost on the verge of tears. Don't make jokes like that, Santo stated, more firm and serious than he had been lecturing him a minute ago. Your cat knocked out the power cord? Oh no. Don't worry, the VOD will be here. Plus, you should see there's a pin for the book. You can click the link and you could go into the chapter and catch up. Don't worry, you're okay. Your dash your boo. Sorry, Judas awkwardly mumbled, too dumbfounded to think of anything else to say. The silence that passed between them was unbearable. As much as Judas enjoyed the trouble he got himself into, he could tell he might have gone too far this time. It twisted a knot in his stomach he never felt before. My God. It's like at this moment, Judas felt guilt? My God. Yeah, it's like, don't worry, it's a restart. It's like, no laughing from me. It's like, we're gonna laugh with you, not at you. But yeah, it's like a little, it's like, as the chapters are gonna go on, you're gonna see a little shift in Judas, just a little bit. Eventually, Santa broke the silence and said, if you would like to know, I can tell you about my past. It might give you an idea of why I act the way I do, but I do warn you that it's not a pleasant story. Judas perked up at the suggestion and made himself comfortable in the nearby chair, seeing this as a chance to get something to report. Sure, I can handle it. All right, if you want me to stop at any point, just let me know. Yeah, lay it on me. Santo chuckled, finding the boy's enthusiasm to be strangely comforting. All right, so 13 years ago. The shift is going to be a little too late? Yeah. You'll find out. So yeah, this is where the flashback starts. It's going to take up the majority of the chapter, but we'll go back after the flashback ends. The land that never town... The land was built on. I'm thinking of the sentence. I think I wrote the sentence weird. I might have to rewrite it. The land that Nevertown was built on. Yeah, I think that's a typo. The land that Nevertown was built on was a different beast years ago. Terror lurked within the sands as a group of arsonists attacked anyone who dared cross their land. Avoiding their territory was impossible as they continued to expand, burning down villages and gunning down civilians as they stole their farming technology to use for themselves. They had no name, banner, or symbol. What united them was their ideology and greed. They believed in the ancient art of survival of the fittest, conquering the world and its riches as their ancestors did. Anything that went against this was a threat to be destroyed. This is an important paragraph. Yeah, they only believed in Waluigi. Now, it's like this is the introduction to because we saw the bandits before, like with Russell in the very beginning. It's like bandits appeared and like attacked his parents and they died. So it's like you've heard about them before. They've been discussed before, but from this chapter onwards, they're gonna start having a more important role. Hence again the military war theme, right, Kitty? Kitty wants to jump up my lap. All right, who wants you pet Kitty? So this is like the introduction, like their background, sort of. Could I have dedicated a chapter to them? I considered that, but then I realized that would have made things a little too complicated, because then it's like, well, then I would have to like expand on who these people even are, and that would be adding more characters. And I'm like, you know what? It's not necessary. They're a plot device. Yeah, United Nations do a bang up job. Oh yeah. It's like funny you would say that. What was the inspiration for the story? There is an inspiration for the story, but like I said, I can't discuss it right now because it would spoil the story. I will discuss what inspired the story after the thing that would spoil the story happens. Kitty, my goodness. Yeah, the pogosity. Yeah, pretty much. So anyway, Santo, Freya, and Talus were victims of these attacks. They were from different villages, yet found themselves brought to the same sanctuary to take refuge in. The Church of Mercy served as both a place of worship and rest, taking what used to be a mansion and renovating it to room as many people as possible. They usually housed a dozen or so children at a time and sent people out to search for families who could adopt the children. Oh yeah, no problem. By all means, ask questions. Like, I'll answer them when I can. No worries, no worries, no worries. It's like, oh, look at this nice church. Nothing bad's gonna happen here, right? There were a handful of priests and nuns as part of the staff, and every child was assigned under one of their care. Santo and Talus were roommates assigned to Sister Zoe, and Freya was assigned to Father Benedict. They were split into different hallways, so Santo mainly saw Father Benedict during sermons. The silver-haired, middle-aged man would passionately read passages from the Bible as he adjusted his oval spectacles, the wrinkles in his russet eyes crinkling when he smiled. Yeah, you know, it is what it is. When Santo first met Sister Zoe, he thought he was seeing an angel in human form. She kept her hair tightly tucked under her habit. It's like, I had to Google up the name of the thing that nuns wear. It's apparently called a habit. That covers their hair. Yet her gentle eyes were as bright and blue as a clear, sunny day. She never ran or rushed herself, maintaining her composure as she moved with each elegant step. She spoke in a soft, sing-song voice that rang like copper bells, yet her words were powerful enough to sway people in her favor. If she told the children to stop fighting, they would apologize. If she told the children to quit fooling around, they went straight back to work. If she told the children to eat their food instead of playing with it, they cleaned their plates. She was a figure of respect and admiration, not to be questioned. I know. It's like, yeah. You finished dinner? All right, well, thanks for stopping by, Jed Bonbon. Have fun with your doggy. In the beginning, everything at the place seemed to be perfect. Oh, thank you for the follow, Domo, welcome. Everyone did their chores together, ate together, played together, and prayed together. Children would occasionally leave when it was announced that they found a family to take them in, and every departure was treated as a celebration. As long as the children were good and did as they were told, they had a chance at a good life too. It was the hope they needed after suffering from so much loss. Domo, Moonlit Wolf, welcome. How you doing? Yeah, she's on YouTube. Like I said, I dual stream, so now that I fixed the multi-chat thing, I can see both now. You're doing well. I'm also doing well. As you can see, I'm reading my book. You should see a pin if you want to look at my book. My web novel. Was browsing and found my channel, figured hop in. Well, thank ya. I appreciate you hopping in. Hope you're having a good weekend so far. However, after a few years of residency, Santo noticed something seemed off. First of all, every child left the church in the exact same black van, so they never saw who adopted them. Second, the priests and nuns clearly had their favorites, keeping them close to their side and buying them nicer clothes than the other children. Third, there was always a patron who came to visit the mansion right before a child was adopted. The overweight patron had a bushy white mustache. Stashes with an S. Stashes. Instead of a bushy white mustache instead of a bed of hair, twirling with his fingers as his amber eyes sparkled with unknown intent. You like my laugh? Thank you. It's my charm point, as the idle people say. You like the story time? Good. That was the idea. I'm basically reading the rest of my story, but right now we're just in a flashback, so no major spoilers yet. So you're okay. Just relax and enjoy me reading. Santo went to Sister Zoe to share his concerns with her. All of her children were allowed in her room whenever they needed anything, and he trusted her more than anyone else. However, she was quick to dismiss his concerns as she tenderly stroked his hair. Yeah, just a wolf and a fox reading a story. Yeah. Enjoy the birds. Pet the kitty, yes. He's my cat Taffy. He was on my lap a minute ago, and then he was being shitty, so now he left. It's nothing to worry about, she said. We just have a way of doing things. I know it may seem strange, but everything is fine. Santo believed her without further argument. At least he did until he noticed Freya frequently going into Father Benedict's room at night. When he tried to ask her about it, she would avoid looking at him and say it was nothing important. Just extra Bible studying, Freya said, her voice lightly shaking. I've been having trouble remembering hymns. Oh, whoa. Yeah, exactly. Like they're the great ditch. They're a type of bird. Google it. Yeah, I got all kinds of fun redeems up, but I must ask your question, but I'm saving it for later. She was hiding something. Santo could tell that much. He asked his good friend Talus if there was a way to record people, and he was able to get him a small camera to hide. Father Benedict also allowed children in his room when needed, so the trick was to make up an excuse and slip it somewhere hard to spot but had a good viewpoint. It was a gamble, yet he got away with a shelf full of religious figures that fit that description. Yeah, it's like lots of funny birds. What he captured in that room was not what he expected. This is when we get to the weird stuff. It showed Freya sitting on Father Benedict's bed and taking off her shoes, followed by Father Benedict kneeling down to wash them. He was slow and thorough with wiping her down with the moist cloth, cleaning each toe and the cracks between them. After her feet were cleaned, he spent another moment caressing them in his hands as if they were valuable treasures, recited a prayer that was too quiet to hear, then eventually sent her on her way. Santo didn't know what to make of this. He had to tell someone. So, of course, he went to Sister Zoe. Her face was blank, completely unreadable, as she watched the recording. Then, without any hesitation, she dropped the camera on the ground and stomped on it, shattering it into pieces. Sister Zoe! He gasped. Why? She stared at him with clouded eyes as she answered, You invaded his privacy. That was wrong. But nothing! Sister Zoe shouted for the first time, causing Santo to fall to the ground in shock. She towered over him with her fists clenched, and all Santo could do, goddamn typos, all Santo could do was quiver before her fury. You have committed a great sin. You will forget what you saw, and you will not be allowed to talk to anyone until you confess to Father Benedict. Santo fought back his tears and murmured, Yes, Sister Zoe. You a werewolf? Cool. Yeah, it's like, look at that. It's like, look at them. Look at them birds. That seems rather benign so far. Yeah, it's like, you have committed crimes against Nevertown and our people. What say in your defense? Guilty. To the fires! You should burn at the stake. The clouds finally cleared, and Sister Zoe knelt down with a smile and a hand extended in peace. Wonderful. You've always been such a good boy, Santo. I know you did it for your friends, so I forgive you. Yeah, it's like, guilty, send me to thine pits of hell. I did it and I'm proud. Yeah, exactly. Santo's heart swelled with joy hearing this, eager to take her hand to stand up. Since he wanted to be in her good graces again, he rushed off to go find Father Benedict as soon as possible. Maybe this was a misunderstanding anyway. Some of the children were embarrassed to admit they need help with things sometimes, so it was possible Freya was having problems with hygiene. That had to be it, right? His haste led him locating the man at a terrible time, as he was in the middle of conversing with their patron. The patron locked eyes with Santo, causing him to swallow nervously. Gulp. Yeah, do the goofy voice. I'll fucking do it again. Yuck. He had been warned not to anger the man since he funded everything from the food Santo ate to the clothes he wore. He thought about turning around and trying again later, yet Father Benedict halted that plan by beckoning him over. Santo had no choice to comply and stand by his side. Should it be but to comply? My god, these typos. Like, I should probably switch to, yeah, stand by his side, straight and stiff as a board. Like, before I continue, so I don't forget. Like, let me say. Take me to the thing. Take me to the chapter so I could fix these heckin' typos. Yeah, the land in Evertown was built on was a different beast. Okay, and then what was, let's see. Yeah, he wears clothes. Did I use Grammarly? No. I remember for my last novel, my other novel on this account, I did use Grammarly, but it was like really weird, and I didn't like how it kept like wanting me to use British spelling. It kept giving like a lot of false positives. Yeah, there was another one. It was Mustache, wasn't it? Where's Mustache? Had a bushy white mustache. Yeah, that's how you spell mustache, no S. And then, like, he had no choice but to comply. Okay. I think that's all of typos. For to type like I talk, you know. Yeah, that's fine for dialogue, but for like the non-dialogue stuff, you gotta have the right grammar. Dialogue, you can do whatever you want. Yeah, it's like, yeah, we have a Discord. By all means, join the Discord. By all means, we'd love to have you. Just follow the rules. Don't be weird. Don't be a jerk. Don't be an idiot. That's kind of the general gist. He had no choice. He had to comply. No, I think that's what I intended, was just have no choice but to comply. I think that was my original intent, and I just forgot the but. Yeah, we do have an NSFW thing, but it's like, it's its own channel. We have a spicy channel, so only post the spicy stuff in the spicy channel. If you're 18. If you're not 18, don't do it. Yeah, normal being with a brain. Exactly, you get it. But anyway, to the patron. Ho-ho, the patron laughed. Is this one up for offer? Not right now, Father Benedict answered. He's under Sister Zoe's care, and she's quite fond of him. My god, why are there so many typos? Ah! You're old? Okay, cool, so am I. I'm 531. Wise as Merlin? Yeah, same. Ah, that's fine. Didn't you mention having a boy who was good with his hands? He'll be perfect for the factory. I'll take him instead. Santo's eyes widened at the realization struck him to the core. There was only one boy who fit that description, and he was waiting for Santo to report what happened with the camera. It's Talus. You're 925. Fantastic. Yeah, a lot of us are geezers here. It's like, I think we only had like one 10-year-old try and sneak in here, and we wound up banning him because he was being annoying in like a bad way. Once one becomes a werewolf, you don't die. Fair enough. It's like, I myself am a shape-shifting kitsune, so you know, I know that feel. I got the tails. If I can show them. Eat. So yeah. Oh, Domo is our death god. Didn't see you there. Yeah, I could write. Don't be weird. By weird, I mean like saying stuff that would make people uncomfortable, I guess. There's a difference between saying I like waffles and talking about your weird sexual fantasies in public. Yeah, welcome. You got one tail and it's big and fluffy. Yeah. Yeah, don't be like Master Roshi. Exactly. Yeah, so very well, Father Benedict stated plainly. We'll have him ready by the end of the week. Excellent! The patron eagerly rubbed his hands together. Hopefully this will show my son the value of good labor. He wants to replace my workers with machines. Machines! When the Midas family has always given people the jobs they need in this economy. That would be selfish of him. Quite. But anyway, we'll keep in touch. The children yearn for the factories. Lemon's a special case. It's like, Lemon's a special case because if you tell him to stop, he'll stop. You're in the server? Pog. After the patron left satisfied, Sato and Father Benedict were left alone together by the entrance. Sato could tell from his disapproving frown that Father Benedict was not happy to have him step into the conversation. You were looking for me, correct? Father Benedict inquired. What do you need? Sato lowered his head and fiddled with his shoes. I want to apologize. I saw you washing Freya's feet. It was wrong for me to peek. I was just... Say no more. He interrupted with a hand raise. I understand you were worried about your friend, but you have nothing to worry about. I would never do anything to harm her. She is one of God's angels, and to taint her would be a terrible sin. Yeah, exactly. Lemon is as Lemon does. He cannot be explained nor contained. Yeah. I would not be so kind to boy. It's like, yeah, right. You don't know? Don't worry about it. If you know, you know, and if you don't know, you don't know. Don't worry about it. Santo perked up hearing this, relieved that his doubts were unfounded. Father Benedict placed a firm hand on Santo's shoulder and said, Let's keep everything between us. That includes Talus. Santo nodded and replied, I promise. He lied. Of course he told Talus. Yeah, angels and werewolves don't get along. Yeah. Vampires stinky. Yeah, that sounds about right. It's like I am a kitsune hunter, so I've had my fair fights with vampires. I've seen them go bleh. As long as you don't have a bounty on your head, you're fine. I only do it for the money. That's it. It's like I don't go after innocent werewolves, so you're safe. Those fucking liars! Talus shouted as he tossed a pillow across their bedroom, slamming it into the wall with a soft plop. I knew it! We're pack mules to these people! Santo simply stood in the middle of the room, lost and confused. I don't understand. Talus sighed and pushed his glasses up to rub his eyes. I've been using my tech to keep tabs. Didn't tell you because I was worried you'd snitch. All I gotta say is, you trust people way too easily. I'm sorry. No, don't say sorry. That's just how you are. Anyway, let me show you. Innocent. Well, innocent till proven guilty. Fair. Yeah, we need to hear some stories about my kills. Yeah, you know. I mean, today I happened to have run into a fellow kitsune out in the wild. They were in their fox form, though. But it was a fun sight. We said hello to each other. You only kill concerts for giggles. Well, you know, people do what they do. You could tell me totally true, not fake skills. Yeah, you know. Like, no, I let them go. They weren't causing any trouble yet. But if the local cats were like, hey, this guy's coming after us, then I'd have to step in. It's like, don't mess with the kitties. Yeah, so just like kids today's have humans form. Yeah, no, this is my ultimate form, as you can see by the point redeem. I have the two tails. Short of. Well, it's one tail split in half, but don't worry about it. Yes, thank you. I am as cuddly as I am deadly. Yes, I am more powerful like this. I can cause explosions. Anyway, Talus then pulled out folders hidden between his mattresses to hand to him. Santo grabbed the folders with shaky hands and opened them, inspecting the contents inside. He covered his mouth with his hand to hide his shock and disgust. The pictures contained scenes of children being slapped, punched, kicked, and other terribly violent acts by the priests and nuns. One picture in particular caused Santo to drop everything. It showed a young girl, Freya's age, running out of Father Benedict's room with the lower half of her body bare. Yeah, that's why I warned you guys. How long has this been going on? Santo asked as he took a step back from the mass of sin. The whole damn time, Talus answered while bending down to gather the evidence. I was hoping to show this to whoever adopted me so we could call the police, but I see now I was too naive. It's all a scam. Yeah, it's like, you could see according to, yeah, exactly. Yeah, worth getting mulled over. Yeah, exactly. Like, your wolf form scary, your human form better, though. You can't get rid of your ears or tail. Yeah, no, I can hide my ears and tails sometimes. It's like if I go like full human, but you know, it comes with it comes and goes. Have that many tails to must keep. Yeah, you know, I got to brush each one. It could be hard to keep track. But luckily, it's like they're few. It's like it's only in half. It's a little weird like that. But it's like if someone had like a split tongue. It's like but it's still like one tongue, just split. So it's like 1.5. Santo kept his eyes on the pictures as they were put away, noting that Sister Zoe wasn't in any of them. What do we do? What about Freya? He said he didn't do anything, but what if he changes his mind? Talus looked down at the pictures, clear concern written all over his face. Yeah, I'm scared too. We have to get out of here. How? Run away, obviously. I mean, it is a big risk, but it's better than staying here. I need to close the door. Taffy's running in and out of the room. You gonna stay put, Taffy? Okay. You have like 4 tails? Wowee. Yeah, 1 tail's good enough. Yeah, it's run away, obviously. I mean, it is a big risk, but it's better than staying here. Talus stood up and stared directly at Santo, his green eyes burning with resolve. It's like, yeah, no petting. Bonk. Look, I don't blame you if you want to stay. I could take Freya, we could leave on our own. I could protect her, but please, help us. Santo nodded and held out his hand to shake on it. Of course. The two exchanged a solid handshake between men to seal the deal. However, people outside of this were not given the same obligation. Thus, it didn't come as too much of a surprise when Freya initially refused the idea. Where would we even go? She asked. It's safer to stay here. We're 15. We're old enough to get work, Talus said. Real work, not whatever that guy has in mind for us. For you, you mean? Freya averted her gaze as she hugged herself tightly. Look, I appreciate the thought, but I'm fine. He promised he wouldn't do anything to me. This is why I never said anything. You can't take him on his word, Talus said. Freya clenched her teeth, tears forming around her eyes. His word is all I have. Yeah, so it's like, this is like a big warning that like, yeah, This is not a good church. It's like they're doing terrible things to the children, threatening them, hurting them. It's all so terrible. Yeah, nice touch on the Cedric Tales. Yeah, this was about, it's like, I bought this as a pre-made, and this was the best I could do, honestly. Because it's like, it was on a slider, so I was like, yeah, I gotta have it be in, like, the middle. Yeah, bite the leader. Yum, 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 yum. Santo felt powerless in his silence, unable to think of anything to say to comfort her. At this rate, he was going to lose both of his friends for one reason or another. What could he even do? As he found himself wandering the halls alone later that evening, trying to make sense of everything, he was broken out of his stupor by a familiar sing-song voice calling out to him. Santo? Are you all right? Sister Zoe asked, very concerned. You seem unwell. Do you need someone to talk to? It's like, I gotta keep my nails trimmed. The priest's names would be Father Handy or something, right? Sure. Yeah, you know, I just keep them trimmed because out of convenience. I don't like having long nails. Like, I'll just bite. Her tender words were enough to break through Santo's defenses, bringing him to tears as Sister Zoe pulled him into a comforting embrace. She then led him into her bedroom, where he proceeded to spill out everything to her. Sister Zoe intently listened to everything without judgment or interruption. At first, Santo was afraid she would be upset with him again, yet the way she lovingly held his hands wiped away any fears he had. It's true. I knew, Sister Zoe stated solemnly. I got upset with you because I was scared I would get in trouble as well. But that wasn't right. What happened here isn't right. So you never hurt anyone? Santo asked, desperate and hopeful knowing what he knew. She quickly shook her head. Heavens, no! I would never hit any of you. You know that. Notice how she specifically said, I would never hit any of you, when he asked, you would never hurt anyone. Oddly specific. You bite and shred with claws. Nice. Yeah, it's like, you gotta have a nice hamburger. It was like, but you get minced meat if you keep cutting up your hamburger. Then why? Safety. There's a reason why we don't get attacked by those monsters. Her face twisted in pain just thinking about it. We don't have weapons or anything to defend ourselves. So instead, we trade. Mr. Midas takes our boys to work for money, and his friends who could protect us take our girls. Now, not to be mistaken with Edgar Midas. This Mr. Midas is Edgar's father. It's like he's the guy mentioned having a son, so that was supposed to point A to B. But I'm just clarifying for anyone that didn't pick up on that. Yeah, Mr. Midas takes our boys to work for money, and his friends who could protect us take our girls. Santo's eyebrows shot up, baffled by this new information. Yeah, the senior Midas. Yeah, you got spikes because you're one of those one of those Koopa turtles. But we can change that now, she said, suddenly getting excited. Tell us as proof, right? We can take this to the police. We can end this together. Santo beamed, happy to see he had an ally on his side. Yes! Can you help them out? I can. Have the three of you pack your things. In fact, have the rest of the children get involved. Tell them we're going camping outside for some stargazing. I'll take care of the rest. Santo agreed, understanding her logic. Even if Talus and Freya escaped, the other children would be in danger. Getting them all out would be the safest option. Oh, we're getting there. We're getting there, Heavy Aether. Using Sister Zoe's influence made the task easier than he thought. It was supposed to be a secret outing, so the children kept quiet, stuffing what they needed into their bags. Freya warmed up to the idea once she knew Sister Zoe was on their side, but Talus was the opposite. He went cold and refused to talk to Santo as he gathered his belongings. While Santo was concerned, he just assumed Talus was mad at him for snitching and could make it up to him after they were out of here. You get one tail floof if you get to touch one spike. Yeah. Have the consensual pettings. If platonic pettings. Friendship. Pets of friendship. Finally, it was time to put the plan into action. Sister Zoe had called for a vehicle to pick them up, so all of the children were gathered around outside the mansion to wait. Santo glanced around in search of Sister Zoe, but he couldn't find her anywhere. Then a blood-curdling scream broke out from the mansion, and everyone turned their attention to the building. An explosion immediately followed, shattering glass and igniting the mansion into flames. The children either shielded their eyes from the explosion or held each other in fear, but they were fortunately far enough to not be affected by the destruction. The double wooden doors fell, and Sister Zoe emerged from the flames, her clothes singed and splattered with blood. She limped out of the building with a tired smile, and Santo immediately ran over to his sister. As he brought her towards the group, he noticed that there were no wounds on her around the blood. Yeah, be careful over there. But as you can see, things are escalating very quickly. Before he could question what happened, another scream drew him back to the mansion. He let go of Sister Zoe to rush back over, but he stopped when he saw the figure trying to crawl out. It was Father Benedict, half charred and half boiled, dragging himself out of the church with the hilt of a knife sticking out of his back. "Damn you!" he cried, reaching out a melting hand towards a horrified Freya watching from a distance. "Freya! My angel! Freya!" He then collapsed, losing the last of his strength as his body was consumed by flames. Loud, hysterical laughter soon followed, and Santo turned his head to see it come from Sister Zoe, who was clutching her sides with a maniacal grin. "How pathetic!" Sister Zoe yelled. "You thought being nice to one girl made up for all of your sins. What a joke! Burn in hell where you belong." "Sister Zoe," Santo mustered, confused and growing ever more afraid. "Why? You didn't have to kill them. We could have arrested them." She stopped laughing and took a deep breath, composing herself to give off the appearance of being as calm and graceful as ever. "Oh, Santo, they wouldn't have been given the punishment they deserved. But it's okay now. They can't hurt us any of us anymore. We can all be together, happy." None of the children were happy right now. They were still huddled together, crying and whispering to each other to try and make sense of this. The sight had reduced Freya to her knees, frozen in shock, but Talus remained strong. "I knew you couldn't be trusted," Talus said bitterly. Yeah, the knife in the back is metaphorical and literal. The violence has increased. Yeah, she loved her vigilantism or something else. Love of the story? Great. Good. Sister Zoe craned her neck to look at Callus and giggled. "Oh, are you still mad at me? I only offered you my bed to guide you away from sin. I would have taken good care of you if you let me." Yeah, you could probably figure out what she's saying by that. She turned her back to Santa to face the children, spreading her arms far and wide as if to pull them all into a loving embrace. "You have nothing to worry about. I'll take care of all of you. My love is all you'll ever need. All you need to do is devote yourself to me." Yeah, careful tugging them fur over there. In that moment, Santo's perfect image of Sister Zoe shattered. She was never an ally. She did this for herself. They had walked out of one trap and were about to be ensnared into another. This was his fault. He couldn't stand idly and do nothing anymore. Something had to be done. He looked back at the corpse on the ground, its form reduced to ashes, and he had an idea. A terrible, terrible idea. Taking what little remained of the priest's robes, he wrapped them around the handle of the knife to safely grip onto. Then, tossing away all thought and reason, he pointed the knife towards his target and charged forward. No one could see him coming from his position, and even if they did, there was nothing they could do about it. Fate had been set into motion. The knife slid into Sister Zoe's back without any resistance. Her smile faded as she started choking up blood, slowly realizing what had happened. She fell forward, silent and unmoving, and soon enough the lights in her eyes were gone. If the children hadn't been scared before, they certainly were now, many of them screaming at the sight of the blood pooling around her. Santo saw the vehicle approaching not long after, and he shifted his attention to Talus. "Get them to call the police," Santo said. "Threaten them if you have to." Oh, yeah, exactly. Santo could only stare at Santo, unsure what he meant by this. "What are you—" Santo ran off before Talus could finish, vanishing into the desert sands. He yelled for Santo to come back, but his pleas went unheard. It was over. Everything was gone. "Yeah, you could drink a Dr. Pepper." Yeah, the absolute betrayal. The travesty. Wasn't she just killing a dude for doing exactly this? Yes. It's like, you see the hypocrisy here. It's like, yeah, that knife was, disposed of. Don't worry. As expected, the police were not overjoyed about having to clean up this mess. Using as evidence, Talus convinced them to drop the charges on Santo, and they gave up searching for him as a wanted criminal. The children were supposed to go to another orphanage, but the van transporting them was attacked by arsonists. No bodies were found at the scene of the crime, and they were never seen again. Talus and Freya did manage to escape and find work. Freya worked as a waitress until she was recruited to be a hostess, while Talus found odd jobs to get him where he needed to be. Even if work kept them apart, their friendship persevered, bound by the trauma they both had to overcome. As for Santo... And then we shift back to present day. Yeah, it's like, Talus was just like, it was self-defense. And it's like, with all the people witnessed there, they're like, it was self-defense. It was totally self-defense. They're like, okay, fine, whatever. It's like they were trafficking us, they were trafficking the children, basically. So it's like, all right, it was self-defense, whatever. We'll drop it. We don't care. Yeah, like I said, this was a nice, on my About Me tab, I have all the credits for everything on there, so you can see where I got everything. How long have I been a fox? Okay, 18 minutes. Yeah, I'm usually a fox for a while, so, yeah. Anyway, back to present day. Yeah, they definitely don't care. Yeah, preemptive self-defense. I started working on building Nevertown, Santo said to end his tragic tale. And now we're here in present day. Wow, that's rough, Gina said honestly. Don't blame me for stabbing her, though. She sounded like one crazy-ass bitch. Santo frowned. Language, young man. Sorry. It's like, not disagreeing with him. Just being like, language. Do you have a better understanding now? Absolutely, sir. I promise not to stab you with a knife in the back. Exact wording. Santo laughed a little at that. Much appreciated. It's like, note the very exact wording. Yeah, she cray-cray. After they finished up their meeting, Judas stepped back outside to see Timmy playing with the other kids. It seemed like they were really getting into some kind of board game, and the kids cheered when Timmy won. Timmy was all smiles and giggles as Wesley lifted him up and onto his shoulders while the crowd shouted his name. Timmy! 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 So this is what he wants, Judas mumbled to himself. Stupid. He then moved forward to join the crowd, blending in once more. All right, let me update those typos. So that was chapter 10. That was a big chapter. As you saw. I think the only other chapter that's like really long might be the final chapter, maybe? I forgot. But anyway, yeah, thoughts, opinions. Otherwise, we'll just move on. Stab him in the ass instead. Yeah,
the paws move. I have little steppies.
Yeah, no, it's like, I forget how much I paid for this, but whatever it was totally worth it. All right, next chapter is about Miles. Now, Miles, again to recap, is Edgar's bodyguard. So this chapter is all about him and how he's going to become a very important character. Well, not yet, but it's like, yeah, throughout all the other chapters, he was sort of in the background. He would maybe say one or two things. Yeah, everyone had everything coming to him. Oh, yeah. No complaints? Great. Was enough deaths? Oh, don't worry about that. More to come. No Miles Morales yet. So, yeah. In fact, it's probably good you're here, Aviator, because this chapter is very military-centric, so if you see anything that's, like, horribly wrong, you can correct me. Miles Kerberos was a soldier. He received vigorous training and strict regimens to build him into the ideal military machine. He was one of the top in his class, even outranking those with cybernetic enhancements. It's because of this he was given the most dangerous of missions, and he was more than willing to put his life on the line to serve. So when he heard about the arsonist and glamour, he initially considered it to be just another mission to shoot down some terrorists. He didn't expect them to be both organized and chaotic in their methods. Without a name or symbol, pinning down who was part of them or merely another bandit was difficult. Thus, the government gave them the codename Nameless for soldiers to use as a reference. Why no spider wolves or spider kitsunes? I don't know. Maybe someday, if science allows it. After months of tracking down the Nameless, they finally had a lead. All of the technology they stole had to go somewhere after all, so there had to be a base. Once they narrowed down the location of one, they jumped into action, loading up everyone into their trucks to roll out. On this day, Miles sat across from his brothers in arms, Lenny, in the back of the van. Yeah, you can call me Loon. That works. As for pronouns, don't worry about it. Anything but it, basically. So it's like, well, I usually take a female form, so she's good, but, you know, there's no wrong answers. It is for objects, so that's why I don't want it. That's it. I do have a boy. Yeah. No, she jam. No, that's a little too silly for me, to be completely honest. Even though the English language doesn't have any singular neutral things, but, you know, it's okay. It's okay. It's nothing to be worried about. But I do have a boy form. Yeah, Lenny was shorter and rounder than Miles, but he tried his hardest to never fall behind. There were even a few times Lenny pulled him out of a tight situation, saving him from being left wide open or getting blown up. As they were going over their equipment, Lenny clicked his teeth and mumbled, "Damn it! Don't tell me I forgot." "Oh boy, what did you forget this time?" Miles asked playfully. "Yeah, call me late for dinner." Yeah. "I need my yums." "Yeah, zoom on in. I could probably..." That might have been too much. Because I'm pretty sure that'll put me back. Yeah. There you go. Lenny pointed to his narrow, black-rimmed glasses. "My goggles! It's gonna be way harder to aim if I'm not logged in." Yeah, mega zoomed. Miles sighed and shook his head. Every piece of their equipment was optimized with AI technology to ensure they can fight as safely and efficiently as possible. It even accounted for physical flaws such as poor vision. Not having that when they were about to be thrust into danger was extremely reckless. "Yeah, you fucked up that one." Or, "Yeah, you fucked that one up." I read that completely wrong. "Yeah, you fucked that one up." Miles took off his goggles and handed them to Lenny. "Here, take mine. You need them more than me." "You sure, buddy?" "I'm sure, buddy." "Thanks," Lenny said as he accepted the goggles and slipped them on, neon blue lights flickering through the lens as they were calibrated. "Again, 2030X. Don't worry about the details about that. Just assume they're like cool, like sonar goggles, night vision goggles. What insert whatever here. uh, hmm. Yeah, heart-shaped snoop. I just realized, are my ears cut off? How did that happen? Oh, maybe because I'm too high. Yeah. I think I had it set to go back into position for cat, but not. Eh, it's okay. Yeah, as far as making goggles that integrate technology for ground, funny enough, the Army tried to do so it's not too far off it. Okay, good to know. Yeah, when I tried to fix my position, it's like, I forgot my ears are so tall. They get cut off. Oops. It's okay. As soon as the truck came to a halt, oh, it might be because I made myself, yeah. It's because I make myself smaller than Taffy, so I made myself, when I returned to my position, I made myself too big. Don't worry about it. I'm not going to be a fox for too much longer. We don't need to worry about the details. As soon as the truck came to a halt, the two leapt out of the truck and directly into the battlefield. Shouting and firing gave them a warm welcome, and they ducked under cover behind a concrete mass to dodge the stream of bullets. The location was one of the villages they had destroyed. Most of its houses crumbled to ruin, with only one of the farm fields still intact. Tents had been put up to compensate for the lack of shelter, where their targets were quick to pick up their weapons and shields. If they wanted to take them down, they had to be smart with their approach. I see explosives! Lenny yelled as he pointed to one of the tents. We could blow up sky high if we could trigger it. That's if they won't use it on us first, Miles replied.
Can we get much higher? Yeah, I'm wearing my hat. I still have my hat.
As if to support his claim, an explosion went off not long after some distance away. Miles used this distraction to continue moving forward, and Lenny followed right behind him. Miles shot down the three men approaching from the front, while Lenny sniped the two men on top of the buildings. If one moved, the other reacted, trusting their partner to warn them of blind spots. Try as the enemy might, they couldn't beat their experience and resolve. Explosives like thermite or C4? Yes. It's like, I kept the what kind of explosive vague, just enough to go boom. Like, pew! But not like, create a crater, just enough to go boom! Does thermite count explosion? Yeah, it looks like it. Their path was soon clear, and they were drawing close to the tent with the explosives. However, they were forced to come to a stop when someone emerged from the tent, and their hearts sank to their feet at the sight. It was a small child, a boy around 6 or 7, strapped with bombs connected to his heart. His dirt-covered face was bruised and streaked with tears as he dragged his little feet forward. This was bad. Miles had seen this before. If that child got close and died, he would take everyone in range with him. The first solution was as simple as saving the boy and getting him to safety, but the enemy could take him out or trigger the bomb themselves if needed. The second solution was less ethical. Let's back up, Miles said. Then you snipe him. Lenny's jaw dropped, baffled. What the hell, man? He's a walking dead man. We can't save him. You know this. Still, Miles scowled and glared at Lenny. You want him to kill our men out there? No, but... Miles groaned and then took a deep breath and contemplated the situation. Fine, I'll do it then. Yeah, it's like they're fighting dirty. Yeah, the dead man switch doesn't need to be so advanced. It could just be a trigger you needed. Yeah, no, it's heartbeat activated. Yeah, there's no way to win this situation. This is why Miles is like, I gotta kill the kid. It's like, it's either... It's an us versus them kind of thing. Sacrifice one to save many. He separated from Lenny to get into an ideal position to fire, using the ruins to his advantage as both camouflage and as a shield. This wasn't the first time he had to resort to something like this. It was part of his job. He had accepted this, even if some chose to hesitate. Yet when it was time to take aim and fire, his path was blocked by Lenny. Lenny slowly moved towards the boy, trying not to alarm us as he gently said, "Hey, buddy, you alright? We're here to help." "Get the fuck out of the way, Lenny!" Miles shouted. "I'm going to shoot!" Lenny looked over towards the sound, though unable to see him due to him taking cover. "I'm sorry, Miles. I got a brother his age. I just can't." The poor child quivered with fear, darting his head around in confusion. Miles couldn't get a good shot at him with how much he was moving. Lenny was in the worst possible spot to be in as well. What was he supposed to do? It's like, damn it, Lenny. He didn't have to answer that question. Someone else answered it for him. The boy's forehead was splattered red as a bullet passed clean through him, causing him to fall backwards. A loud beep echoed across the field, and everything went white. The intense heat dug into his skin, and even from behind the rubble. The intense heat dug into his skin, even from behind the rubble, and the debris flew straight into his unprotected eyes. His ears rang so loud in his head, he didn't realize he was screaming in agonizing pain until reinforcements arrived. Rip. Yeah, exactly. He was right in the blast field. Oh, my boogies. Miles's eyes shot open as he woke from his nightmare, clutching his sheets while panting heavily. It wasn't the worst memory to dream about, but it was unpleasant nonetheless. It was because of that mission he had to be discharged due to his injuries. The mission was a success in the end, but the cost had been great. He had someone else sent to deliver the news to Lenny's family because he was too ashamed to do it himself. He never thought he could be such a coward. He sat up from his bed and rubbed his eyes, cursing to himself as they stung. Enough reminiscing. He had to get to work. He needed to pick up Judas and bring him to Mr. Midas for their meeting. Though first, he could use some eye drops. Yeah, there is an option to waste points for an anime reference. This is true. And I was like, that's 7. So all the Sentry stuff was from Miles' perspective? Yeah. I should probably clarify that, shouldn't I? I should probably say Miles' skin. Yeah. There you go. Now you know. Now you know whose it is. There we go. It's like you brought up a good point. It didn't specify. It's like, now you know. Convincing Santa to let Judas leave Nevertown when he wanted to was as simple as crafting a lie. The key to creating the perfect lie was having some truth mixed into it. Yes, he was being picked up by an employee from Midas Training Company who found him and brought him to Nevertown. Yes, there was a possibility he could be adopted, but someone's wife doesn't want any children right now. Santo knew that much. However, what he didn't know was that it wasn't a random employee Judas had posed with for a photo to show to Santo. The photo of him playing with said employee's children was also a facade. He broke their toys and made them cry 5 minutes later. Bob was happy to play along for that pay raise, though, and that's all that mattered. Yeah, so on the question of how the fuck did Judas keep reporting back to Midas about what's going on, make up a lie. Yeah, Lenny's dead. Very dead. But yeah, I've been a fox long enough. Time to turn back to normal.
Yeah.
Yeah, super dead. Yeah, it's like it's like the fact that even though he was in cover, Miles still got seriously injured. That should tell you how bad the explosion was. Yeah, it's like, I diagnose you with dead. Yeah, he was trying to save a kid, man. Yeah, this chapter also explains how Judas is getting away with a lot of his shit. So if you're wondering, it's like, how the fuck is Judas like being a spy and all that stuff? It's like, don't worry about it. You get your explanation right here. Yeah, he was loaded with explosives. Like he was a walking time bomb.
The feather is a feather in my hat. Because it's fancy. It came with the hat.
In order to prevent anyone from seeing him, Miles would park near the back of the cave Judas and Timmy would be in, then honked 3 times to signal his arrival. Judas would have normally emerged and gotten in shortly after, yet today there seemed to be a delay. Several minutes passed, but nothing. Confused, Miles stepped out of the car and walked around the stone structure to check the situation.
Thank you for the follow, Domo. Welcome.
Oh, God. Don't know where that came from. He quickly realized his mistake stepping in, as the 2 boys weren't alone. Talus, Santo's mechanic, was busy fiddling with a broken game console to get it to work again. The 3 turned their heads to the entrance, and Judas furrowed his brows in annoyance.
Yes, Petkitty. Welcome.
Yeah, we're super talkative today, so good luck finishing the story. Hey, if I don't finish reading it, the link's right there. You could read it yourself. I did my writing. I'm done. I'm just reading this for you guys, and we can check my typos. That's all that's going on. Seriously? Judas spat. I was gonna be there in a minute. Why'd you come in? I've been waiting for 10 minutes with no response, Miles answered. You should have informed me if you needed some more time. Talus quirked a curious eyebrow. Ah, you the guy taking Judas out today? Santo told me, but I don't know the exact details. I'm Talus. Yes, I know, Miles said while adjusting his sunglasses. You've repaired some of our machines at Midas Trading Company. Your work is admirable. Talus grinned and bashfully rubbed the back of his head. Hey, someone's gotta do it. Well, I won't keep you waiting. I'll have this fixed by the time you get back, Jude. Judas rolled his eyes at the nickname, but got up and left without any further issues. Timmy meekly waved him off, and nothing else. Miles and Judas entered the black car with an air of silence that could be cut with a knife.
Yeah, get some popcorn, get a snack. Why not?
As they started driving towards their destination, Miles asked, Are you getting along with everyone there? Judas chuffed and crossed his arms. Why do you care? A spy needs to be able to blend in to avoid being discovered. Knowing you've earned their trust would be reassuring to Mr. Midas. I guess. I got tired of getting in trouble, so I keep my distance now. Fair enough. Miles didn't like that he dreamed about that boy last night. He had most likely been a rat, like Judas, who was kidnapped by the arsonist to use as a disposable tool. Okay, that's fine. He wondered if Mr. Midas was going to keep his end of the deal, or if he intended on being no different.
Yes, have some Swedish fish. Very yummy.
Not helping his case, it was Mrs. Midas, the Odelia, who answered the door when they arrived at the mansion. She stared down at the boy with utter disgust, like he was rotting garbage. Rotting garbage, not garage. Left in a trash can. Judas returned the gesture with a confident smirk, knowing she couldn't toss him out. Eventually, she broke eye contact with a disapproving huff, and led them to the living room where Mr. Midas was waiting. Judas happily made himself at home on one of the expensive leather black couches, spreading himself out across the fine brown fur pillows decorating it.
Yeah, my VTuber mama did a very good job, yes.
Before she disappeared into the ether forever, never to be seen again, unfortunately. I hope she's okay. I hope she is well. Mrs. Midas covered her mouth, her face turning pale as if she was about to vomit. God, why do you let him act like this? How unruly! It's fine, my little nugget, Mr. Midas said while waving a dismissive hand. He was comfortably seated in his own golden throne adorned with beautiful ruby fabrics. We can have the maids clean up after him, don't you worry. Mrs. Midas moved to leave after that, but Miles was within hearing distance of her angrily mumbling to herself. There's no way he's taken in that little mutt. Not if I have anything to say about it. I can see why you like Freya more, Judas bluntly stated, not caring if she could still hear. She'd be a way better mom than that pig. Mr. Midas burst out laughing in response. Judas, my boy, you're too honest for your own good. But you must understand, adults have responsibilities and obligations. Even if you don't like her, she's still my wife, and I love her ever so dearly. Yeah, he'll come back with that milk, don't worry. Judas gave him a doubtful look. Uh-huh, sure. Anyway, what do you have for me? Good news, I hope. I'm getting there. If I could get to his cabinet, I can nab the files. Problem is, he keeps the key on him all the time. Judas sighed and put his hands behind his head. I'm stumped. Maybe we could blow it up with explosives? Oh, thank you for the follow. Domo, welcome. Okay, welcome. Oh, yeah, welcome, Golden. Yeah. Thank you for following. Arigato. Yeah, thank you very much. Yes, we will have a nice stream. Thank you very much. I hope you're having a good weekend so far. Thank you. Yeah, maybe we could blow it up with explosives? Mr. Midas says, yeah, it's like those S's like throw me off. Yeah, stream's going good. Nice emotes, but don't go too crazy, pretty please. Yeah, Domo-sans, welcome. Yeah, I'm reading my web novel. You should see a pin with the link to it to check it out. I'm just reading. I'm reading and checking my typos and everything, but otherwise it's finished and complete. But yes, hello and welcome. Mr. Mice's eyes suddenly lit up at the suggestion. Oh yes, explosives! A bright idea, boy, but maybe not for the cabinet. Might be dangerous if he has traps around it. Judas tilted his head slightly, puzzled. Then what? Something else, Mr. Midas answered vaguely, his grin gleaming as the dark thoughts in his mind began to churn. Oh, thank you for the follow! Domo, welcome! Arigatou gozaimasu! Either way, you'll have the perfect chance soon. The men overseas informed me we're going to have an air raid in the area to drown out the terrorists. You can simply break it during the commotion. Judas sat up with excitement from hearing that and asked, When's that happening? Mr. Midas giggled from seeing his reaction. Soon, my boy, very soon. Yeah, you know, sometimes people like to stroke the cravat. It's okay. It's a fancy, shiny cravat. Miles frowned. Something didn't feel right. An organized air raid wouldn't happen without proper reason for it. Blindly bombing populated areas would mean casualties of countless innocents. Foreshadowing. Excuse me, sir, Miles interjected. May I ask what led them deciding to do an air raid? I think that's an okay sentence. Led them deciding to do an air raid. Yeah, that should be fine. Oh, that? Mr. Midas leaned back in his chair and folded his hands together. I may have given them some information about the terrorists that I had. Miles' eyes grew wide, surprised. How did you know about the arsonists? My father, mostly. Referencing the previous chapter. This is a direct follow-up to the previous chapter. He had a bit of an arrangement with them back in the day. That arrangement no longer exists, so the information may be a bit outdated. Yet that doesn't matter. Like, why are they doing an air raid? It's like, that would probably be a better way to ask, but it's like Miles is trying to be like formal and polite, so that's why I have it like worded like that. I think it's okay. I think we're fine. Miles was baffled, to say the least. An extreme amount of time and resources spent to put people in danger merely for one bridge. Was the dream he had meant to be a memory of the past? Or was it a warning of the future? Foreshadowing. Foreshadowing. If I may, sir, I feel this may be more than necessary. Why are you going through such lengths? Mr. Bias's expression shifted from childish glee to disturbingly stern. I told you, I despise Santo. I want him to suffer. Miles nearly reeled back, almost intimidated by the murderous aura emanating from his own boss. You know it's bad when the soldier is intimidated by his boss. This isn't about the bridge, isn't it? Oh, it is, but it also goes much deeper than that. His hands gripped together tightly, veins popping out from the sides, yet his tone remained calm. I didn't always agree with my father, but I loved him. I admired him. I wanted to be as successful as him. And there goes my coat. I wanted to be as successful as him, even if our methods were different. And yet, he stopped himself and slowly shook his head. No, you don't need to know. It's none of your business. Again, referencing the previous chapter. Miles glanced at Judas, who had tuned out the conversation at this point to kick around on the couch instead, then back at his boss. Understood. My apologies. He never understood why selfish men had to bring innocents into their squabbles. At the same time, he realized he was being disrespectful to the one man who helped him after he lost his position. Was he being ungrateful for the sake of self-righteousness? He didn't know. Miles Kerberos was a soldier. That didn't change even after losing his uniform. He was built from the ground up to follow orders. Yet when he dropped Judas off back at Nevertown and saw Timmy happily run up to greet him, he thought about Lenny for the first time in years. He thought about the brother that would never greet him home. His heart stirred like the beef stew his mother used to make every winter as he drove back to his apartment. He may have been a soldier, but he wasn't a machine. He was, undoubtedly, a human.
Yeah, I got a funny shirt.
So yeah. Fleshing out Miles, it's like, because he's going to be very important later. Yeah, beef stew, gross. Yeah, it's like I was trying to like give like a nostalgic sort of feel, like him thinking back to his own family, his own childhood, to emphasize him being human. Yeah, update me fixing those typos. All right, next one. This is the last happy chapter. Everything from here goes completely to shit. This is the last happy chapter. You can't say the issues? Okay, good. I just wanted to be sure. If you say there's no major issues, then we're good. I just wanted to make sure. But if you're saying it's okay, then we're good. I'm glad. Yeah, I'll check my posture. All right, so the chapter starts off with Rishi. Rishi, like I said, he's the guy with the brain injury. His head's like concaved in. Rishi stood in his usual spot in the fields, tiny tomato leaves brushing against his legs as he stared up at the cliffs. He held the blue, padded touchscreen in his hands, lit up with various pictures on the screen and waiting to be used. His interests were targeted on the cliffs, however, once again locked in place with only his breathing chest making any type of movement. Yes, exactly, Heavy Aether. You are 100% correct. It's like the focus was on the characters. That's why it's like I didn't go crazy into detail about like what weapons they're using, what kind of explosives, because that's not the point. It's like when you're watching like an action movie and y'all, I just hydrated, but I'll do it again. I'll take another sip. You're watching an action movie and it's like, it doesn't matter that John McBadass is using an AK-47 instead of an AR-15. It just looks cool. And he shot the bad guys and they're dead, and that's what's important. No more game sodas. Why are you saying no? Yeah, by all means. If you gotta eat or lurk or whatever, go ahead. That makes sense now? Okay, yeah, cool. Glad we're on the same page. And yeah, thanks for stopping by, Wolf. Thank you. Good to see ya. It's like my next stream won't be till like Tuesday, so have a good weekend. Yeah, anyway. Eventually, Rydia, the eldest of the Coopers, if they take care of the animals. Eventually, Rydia approached him with Georgina in hand and kindly said, "Hey, Rishi, Santo's back from his trip. He brought back a surprise. Do you want to see?" This was enough to have Rishi break his focus. instead slapping on his touchscreen with the palm of his hand. Rydia sighed and let go of Georgina to take Rishi's hand, delicately squeezing it to have just his pointer finger out. It's easier if you use one finger, Rydia explained, then guided him to press the yes image on the screen. The machine read the image in its robotic, monotone voice. Like that. Now let's go. So yeah. It's like the beginning of the chapter basically established, like, yes, they are trying to help Rishi communicate a little bit better with an iPad. because there are programs you can put on an iPad to, like, you push the picture and it'll say the thing, and you can use that for nonverbal kids so they can communicate. So that's what they're trying to do here. I figured it was a good idea to help, like, humanize them a little more. Yeah, totally not iPad. Domar did a welcome. As you can see, I'm reading my book. Links in the pin. How you doing? Yeah, it's like you did not expect me to tackle a character like this. Oh, yeah, no. It's like part of the reason why I wanted to have a character with, like, a traumatic brain injury is because that's to be expected, right? And like, if a child getting, like, seriously hurt, like, we have a character who has, like, no arms. They were replaced with robotic arms. We have a kid who lost an eye. It's like Russell has PTSD. Well, everyone has a little PTSD, but, like, Russell's is a little fresh. And everyone else is, like, messed up in some way, shape, or form. But, like, the physical stuff is very important as well. So seeing how people deal with that is very important. And I've mentioned this before, but I actually knew somebody many years ago with a traumatic brain injury, so he's a little inspired by that person. So that's why it's like I'm writing off based off experience. Haven't seen that person in a very long time now, because again, this was years ago, and I didn't like. And like, it's not like we were close or anything like that. They just happened to be there. It's like I was doing a quest, and when you do quests and you're out in villages and you got to stay in a village for a while, you get to know the townspeople. It was one of those kind of things. I was on an adventure. Once the adventure was over, I left the town, so I never saw him again. You know, it's one of those just hunter things. Anyway, Rishi let out a loud humming noise, but complied without protest, allowing Rydia to take his and Georgina's hands to head over to Santo. He was at the back of the jeep to bring out his big surprise. A few bleats followed him gently tugging his hull along, revealing it to be a white adult goat. Doggy! Georgina cried as she let go of Rydia to run over to the goat.
Look at all those chickens.
She pulled it into a hug, which the goat accepted with a deadpan bacon expression. That's a goat, Rydia said while inspecting it herself, noting its large udder. We can milk it like a cow. Keep in mind, Georgina's like 3 years old. She is the youngest out of everybody. That was the idea, Santo said. I figured one was a safe start given their needs. That was why I had Wesley and the others expand the animal area. Yeah, because it's like, I was looking up, like, animals that are easy to take care of, and goats are easier to take care of than cows. So, for the sake of getting milk, a goat is easier than a cow. So, they have a goat now. They have chickens, they have rabbits, ducks, and one goat. Just one. Rydia smiled as she watched Georgina nuzzle her face against the goat's soft fur. That makes sense. But you think the kids will like goat milk? It has a mighty strong taste. Right, she has a southern accent. I'm sure Nina can figure something out. Where is she? Where she usually is. Her and Ako are prepping for the party. Parties were a bright spot for the children. It let them receive gifts, play around, and eat their favorite foods with little care. For the sake of time and resources, everyone's birthday for that month was condensed into one day. If a child didn't have a birthday, one was given to them. This was the case for Judas, who was lucky enough to have this month to himself. Even if he didn't deserve it, it was better than skipping the month altogether. It's like, let the boy have a birthday. Why not? Nina and Ayako had a solid dynamic down with their cooking and designing, respectively. They could agree on where to put the food, where to set up the games, and how to decorate the cake. They took each child's preferences in mind, even if it meant having to make multiple smaller cakes on bigger months. Judas liked chocolate, cherries, and video games, so Nina baked a chocolate cake with cherry filling, while Ayako molded fondant to match little pixel characters. They were able to get references from Timmy. Look at how thoughtful these guys are to Judas. Yeah. Judas already probed Timmy into spoiling the surprise, so he sat in the cafeteria and watched the girls making his cake with the biggest grin on his face when Santo walked in. Yeah, some real life similarity to the birthday thing from Vietnamese culture. Oh yeah, no, it's like it wasn't intentional. I was thinking from a very practical standpoint, but if it just so happened to have lined up with a certain tradition, good. I was just thinking, like, yeah, in terms of like scheduling, money, budget, having a birthday once a month for everybody sounded right. And everyone should have a birthday. As he greeted the girls, Rishi was right behind him, his touchscreen reading out letters as he typed them. There was some pattern to them, as it was always the same letters. A, E, L, Y. Over and over again at random. I'm going to leave that up to you guys to figure out what he's trying to type. Because he is actually trying to type something. If you can figure it out, good job. You get an imaginary cookie. Birthdays aren't a big deal in their culture. They don't celebrate them. So if a Westerner asks when their birthday is, they just say January 1st. Okay, that's fair. Yeah, so this is similar. You sure he'll figure out how to use that thing? Judas asked. Yes, I'm sure, Santo said. Even if it's not perfect, it could help us understand it better. Judas rolled his eyes. Whatever you say. To his surprise, Rishi stopped typing away to move over to Judas and attempted to wrap a free arm around him. Judas froze in place, baffled and unsure what to do. "Aw, I think he wants a hug," Nina said with a giggle. Judas glanced at Nina, then back at the clinging Rishi. "You're kidding." Ayako joined the giggling. "He's trying to be nice for your birthday." Judas doubted this, but his choices were limited. Since shoving him off right in front of Santo would lead to a lecture, he gave up and tried to return the gesture, awkwardly placing a hand on Rishi's back. In response, Rishi let out a gleeful squeal, rotated his head, and sunk his teeth into Judas's arm. "Ow!" Judas cried as he pulled back and checked the damage. It was barely anything. The marks from the light bite quickly fading. "He bit me!" Nina and Aiko burst into laughter while holding their sides. It's not Saul. It's one of those genius bonuses. I'll give you a hint. He saw something and now he's trying to type the name of that thing. But not in English. Nina and Ayako burst into laughter holding their sides. "Now, ladies," Santo stated calmly yet firmly while motioning Rishi away from Judas. "I know his little love bites are funny, but we shouldn't encourage it." "Sorry," they both replied once they regained their breath. Judas pouted and stood up. "Whatever, I'll have Melinda check for rabies while y'all are finishing up." He got a disapproving look from Santo for that comment, but he let him go regardless. He had expected Melinda to be treating some other kid for scrapes and bumps at this point, yet as he entered the infirmary, he was greeted with another surprise. It was Freya who was doing the patching this time, wrapping a bandage around an injured Melinda's arm. Russell and Winnoa were picking up metal objects off the floor, while a guilty Germain sat in the corner facing the wall. "Whoa, what happened here?" Judas asked. "Just a little accident," Freya said. Germain was running around when he knocked over a shelf full of supplies. Melinda pushed him out of the way in time, but got hurt in the process. "I'm so sorry," Winnoa said frantically, still in a panic state despite the situation already being resolved. "I should have grabbed him. I should have. Should have, not shouldn't. I should have grabbed him sooner." "Really, it's fine," Melinda insisted. "What's important is that he's safe." Judas smirked and sat down on the bed next to Melinda's. You complained about your parents being heroes, but you're actually no different, huh? Russell raised his head up to glare at Judas for that comment, but Melinda simply blushed and laughed a little. I guess you're right, Melinda said. I really am their daughter. I'm sure they would be proud, dear, Freya said, giving her bandaged arm a comforting pat. You've grown into a reliable woman. Yeah, it's like Judas is referencing a chapter where Melinda talked about her past, and she was pissed off that her parents were basically played the hero and saved everyone, but at the cost of their own lives. I wish I could say the same, Winnoa mumbled bitterly. I keep messing everything up. Hey, you can't do everything, Russell said. It's okay to let us handle things once in a while. The girls smiled from the warm reassurances, but the moment was shattered by a sudden, loud beeping noise. Everyone immediately looked over at Russell, who had stiffened in response. PTSD. Freya gasped and pulled her phone out of her pocket, realizing the sound came from her. Oh, I'm so sorry, Freya said as she turned off the alarm. I must have said that to be reoccurring for my job. I didn't mean to frighten you, dear. After a long, suspenseful moment, Russell relaxed. He placed a hand on his chest, closed his eyes, and took a deep, deep breath. He wasn't dying. He wasn't burning. He was here. Progress. Yeah, in the other chapters when beeping and stuff went off, he was like freaking out. But this is meant to show, 12 chapters later, he's finally like recovering a little bit. Not yet. Progress though. Like he's not screaming. He's not like having it exploding or nothing. He's just, I'm okay. Russell breathed out, managing to find peace. I'm okay. Winnoa placed a supportive hand on his back just to be sure while they stood up and put everything back where it belonged. Melinda humored Judas by examining him and advised he washed up to avoid infections. Once everything was settled, the group headed out to go to the party. Meanwhile, Talis and Santo had moved into his office to talk. Siri was preoccupied with the other kids setting up the games. Angelica was even in a good mood today and letting the young ones have a chance to win instead of yelling at them for playing wrong. The two men shared a bottle of aged whiskey, clinking their glasses together before taking a sip. Damn, pulling out the good stuff, Talis said with a chuckle. What's the occasion, aside from the party? Santo idly swirled around his glass, observing the amber liquid within. I've decided to confess. Talis quirked a curious eyebrow. Confess what? How I got this land. It's not a pleasant story, hence why I didn't want you to hear it sober. Ah, gotcha. I'm calmer with a little juice in me. Clever. Talis sighed and leaned back in his seat. All right, lay it on me. How'd you do it? Santo placed his glass quietly on his desk, then explained. After I ran that day, I went into hiding until I could secure a meeting with Henry Midas, Edgar's father. I used your evidence to blackmail him since the church was founded on his property. Talis snickered. That's it? Why would I be mad about that? I'd be glad you got back at that bastard. Santo shook his head. No, it's not that simple. We agreed that I would work for him until he retired. After that, I could have the property in exchange for the evidence, on the condition that a building of faith was constructed. He didn't care which. Whichever god won't send him to hell, I reckon. More or less. Santo's azure eyes turned downcast as he recalled his deeds. But working for him meant being in charge of his workers, the children taken from the church. I had no choice but to command them to do things that were highly dangerous and unethical. Putting hands in gears, working for longer hours, skipping their lunch breaks. Santo raised a hand to cover his eyes in shame. As you can imagine, they despised me for that. I'll say. When the time came, Edgar Midas ended the child labor in favor of machines, as predicted. Henry handed me the entirety of the property, as promised. My original plan was to take the children and bring them back with me to rebuild. Unfortunately, I had made a grave error. By playing along with that man's schemes, I failed to give the children any reason to trust me. They all assumed it was a trap and scattered into the slums, never to be seen again. Yeah, so Santos basically saved nobody except Talis and Freya. That's it. Santos tried so hard, got so far, far, and in the end, it barely even fucking mattered. He only saved a grand total of 2 people, and that's it, out of God knows how many. Talus frowned and looked down at what was left of his drink. Yeah, you really fucked that one up. Yeah, 2 is better than 0, that's true, but Santo's got that survivor's guilt. It is infinitely better. It's like, this is very true. We all know this. Santo doesn't. That's kind of one of his fatal flaws, is that he feels like he has to do something. Yes, I did. So I decided to learn from my mistake and start over. Santo glanced over at one of the photos, which showed him holding a much younger Angelica. While I was trying to find one of the factory children, I met Angelica. She had left her parents' apartment when they hadn't returned from work and was wandering aimlessly. They'd been missing for days and had likely been killed. I knew what I had to do in that moment, and the rest is history. Yeah, he's very much a pessimist. It's like Santo's kind of a pessimist. Talus is like the cynicist. Freya is really the only optimist in the group, which is amazing when you consider the horrible things she's gone through. Fair enough. Talus followed up his drink with a cigarette, using it as an excuse to mull things over. Yeah, I would have been mad at you if you told me sooner. But it's been 5 years. You failed to make it work the first time, but you got it this time. Since you've been learning and improving for their sake, I could forgive you for being so stupid. Santo's smile overflowed with relief. I appreciate it. By the time they left the office, the children had finished their games and were ready to eat. Siri ran up to Talus and grabbed him by the hand to drag him over to a table, but Talus countered this by pulling the young man into a headlock and giving him a noogie. Dang it, you're drunk! Siri playfully shouted while trying to push him off. Dumb old man. Talus chuckled. Yeah, you know it. Yeah, so like trying to show Siri and Talus are on good terms again. They've been on good terms, just showing, you know. Siri's over his little crush. It's okay now. The 2 exchanged some laughs before finding a place to sit. As Santo scanned the area, seeing everyone present and having a wonderful time, Judas approached. Ah, there's the birthday boy, Santo said. Are you enjoying the festivities? It's good. And Judas answered plainly. The cake looks cool. I'm glad to hear it. Yeah, thanks for stopping by, Bird. Rest well. Yes, Domo raid welcome. Yes, I could write the novels. It's like, since I'm looking at the browser, I keep forgetting to check. It's okay. Suddenly, Judas jumped forward and wrapped his arms around Santo's waist, burying his face into Santo's torso and taking Santo completely by surprise. Thanks, Judas mumbled, for not giving up on me. Santo was touched beyond belief, and he placed his hands on the boy's back to return the hug. Aww! In the midst of this lovely moment, Santo was too distracted to notice the stray hand slipping into his pocket. Got it. Yeah, so if you remember, Santo keeps something on him at all times that lets him access the cabinets. So, what do you think Judas got? Yeah. It's like, put 2 and 2 together to make 5. Yeah, so I think I just had to fix that one typo. Yeah, it's like, I should have grabbed him sooner. Yeah, so it was just that one typo. Okay. Stole a whole roll of quarters. Me money! Alright, yeah, the last 3 chapters is the tragedy. So, we're getting there. Air raid. Santo was making his usual rounds around Glamour, stopping by to see Freya before his meeting with Mr. Midas. Her information regarding the upcoming conflict between the unnamed bandits and the overseas soldiers was going to be crucial in strategizing the best deal possible. While he was there, he gave her the same confession he did with Talus explaining his disappearance, and she simply laughed in response. You always were painfully optimistic, she said, but it's because you dream so big that you've gotten this far. I'm with Talus on this one. Waiting to tell us until you could prove yourself was the right call. As much as I hate to admit it. I am still so. Yeah, maybe the better way to describe Santo is he's a perfectionist or an overachiever, overthinker. It's like words like that come to mind with Santo. It's like he tries so hard, gets so far. Freya hushed him with a single finger to the lips, her lips curling into a playful smile. Enough, dear. We shouldn't let the past weigh us down when we have so many children to carry towards the future. How are they doing, by the way? Santo blinked twice, a little confused by her actions, but he shook it off and answered, They're well. I'm amazed at how much Judas had grown over the months. When he heard I was going to the city today, he even offered to fill the tank for me. How nice of him. Aw, how sweet, Freya replied, resting her chin in her hand as she thought back to the play some time ago where he almost fucking ruined it. He really was trouble at the start, so I'm glad he's come around. Santo nodded in agreement. Their session came to an end not long after that, but at least they were able to stop it on a positive note. He noticed Freya had a tendency to shift the conversation, so that was almost always the case. It likely came with the experience of her job. As he was getting ready to leave, he said, I appreciate all of your help. Really, I do. Freya let out a small laugh that rang like a copper bell. I know, dear. Take care. The drive to Mr. Midas was surprisingly calm. There was noticeably less cars on the road, and the majority of people out on the streets were the poor souls struggling to find food and shelter. The contrast between seeing them and the mansion Mr. Midas owned, just a few blocks away, was a frustrating sight. Yet his power was limited. He had to pick and choose his battles, and he was already doing well with what he had. It's like, look at all these poor people. Mr. Midas was eagerly waiting for him in the living room, sitting on his golden throne while the fireplace beside him burned ferociously. Santo sat down on one of the couches, noting that the pillows and blankets that usually decorated them were missing. The guard stood behind him, observing over the meeting with his sunglasses still remaining on his stoic face. We don't need to waste time, Mr. Midas stated casually, catching Santo by surprise. You probably caught wind of what's going on. He spread his arms wide like the wings of an eagle, his excitement ready to soar. The war against terror is about to reach its climax, and with it, I'll need to train more than ever. Then we're on the same page, Santo replied, maintaining his calm composure in the face of a profiteer of death. Since we're not wasting time, I'll say now that I'm not letting you purchase the bridge. Oh, I know! I have a better offer. His grin stretched long and wide, beyond what some might consider to be possible. 10 million for the next year. That should be good, yes? Santo nearly fell over in shock. That was far more than what he had anticipated. Planning on getting half that amount if he played his cards right. As tempting as he was, he had to keep it together to avoid getting sucked too quickly into the offer. Is there a catch? Santo asked. No catch. The sooner I get the good men their weapons, the more money I'm paid. You have to spend money to make money. That's all. Santo remained silent for a moment, rubbing his chin as he carefully molded over, then said, Fine, but it will be in monthly payments, and I could back out at any time without consequence. Mr. Midas extended a hand, its sweat glistening from the glow of the fireplace. You have a deal. This was all far too easy, yet Santo accepted regardless. There was a danger of letting military trade go through the bridge, but he was prepared. Why is he so slick? Ew. Well, he is a overweight man sitting right next to a fire. He had the necessary defenses set up since day one. If this was some kind of plan to make him a target to the enemy, it wasn't going to work. Santo bet his life on that. After Santo finished signing the paperwork and began to make his exit, he heard Mr. Midas speak to him one last time with an oddly sentimental tone. Farewell, Santo, he said. Yet Santo chose to ignore him. his back facing him as he stepped away. Santo sighed and tried to organize his thoughts as he entered his jeep, pushing aside whatever mixed emotions he had at the moment. The deal was done, so he could just focus on what he had to do before heading back home. The animals could use more feed. He can pick some up really quick. That seems like a good plan. The ride to the market was too quiet. There weren't any other cars on the road. Was there construction going on? His stomach churned with worry, but he dismissed it. It was probably nothing major. At least he would be getting home early. He did feel a little better when he saw there were people hanging around the market. It was the standard vendors selling their scraps and wares to the people who haggled for as low as possible. However, as he scanned the area to find the animal vendor, he realized there was something different. Some of the ragged customers were not the same vagrants he was familiar with. And as soon as he caught a glimpse of a rifle peeking from under one of their robes, his chest tightened. Then it happened. An explosion. Far enough not to be hit by the impact, but close enough to see the dust erupt from the earth and hear the roar of the inferno drowning out the screams. The strange vagrants dropped their facade and pulled out their weapons, pointing them at the vendors. "Give us everything you have," they shouted. "We'll kill every last one of you if we have to." Santo withdrew behind a stack of crates, cursing himself for his bad timing and praying that he hadn't been spotted. What was going on? Where were the government soldiers that were supposed to be patrolling the area? He should have listened to his gut, and now he was trapped with his head down. As if to answer his prayers, an alarm siren blared throughout the city, echoing its message for all to hear. "Attention! Attention! Terrorists have invaded the city. Remain calm and seek shelter immediately. Air raid will be commencing shortly. I repeat." Yeah, Rambo mode. Santo didn't know the details of this air raid, but he could at least conclude that Glamour was about to become a battleground. To prove his point, an aircraft zipped through the skies above the market, and another explosion soon followed. While this one was much closer, Santo was able to use the heavy crates as a shield from the impact, plugging his ears and shutting his eyes to protect himself. Unlike Miles, when he raised his head back up, he discovered the entire spot where the gunman once stood had been decimated into a crater. The stands had been reduced to ash and rumble, while the people caught in the blast had been knocked around like rag dolls, their bodies gone limp and lifeless. Those who managed to avoid the blast began to panic, screaming and running around in a desperate attempt to escape. Yeah, it's like this is like it's like they're blowing everything up. It's like weeding out the rats. Not knowing when the next bomb drop would be, Santo rushed back towards his jeep, bumping past a crowd as gunshots bellowed in the distance. More dangerous men ran through the streets, breaking through buildings and grabbing anyone they could use as possible hostages. When they realized all that remained were the homeless and unwanted, they opted to use them as shields instead, placing them in front as aircrafts pelted them down. Some began retaliating by shooting whatever they had back at the aircrafts, targeting the ones that soared low enough to be in range. Even something so powerful and sturdy could fall if hit in the wrong places, as proven when one plane had its wing blown off, causing it to spiral straight into a building. After weaving his way through the fire and chaos, Santo finally reached his jeep and hurried to unlock it with shaky hands. Unfortunately, one of the gunmen caught him in the act and grabbed him from behind, wrestling with him for the keys. Santo struggled and fought back as much as he could, even resorting to headbutting to stun him. The gunman reeled back a bit, but refused to surrender, pulling Santo back right as he was about to get inside the jeep. "Give me the fucking car!" the man yelled. Santo scowled and growled. "Never! Let go of me!" Their brawl was then interrupted by another wave of gunfire from above, slicing through the air and raining down on the gunman until he collapsed. Santo didn't even bother to confirm if he was dead or not, jumping straight into his jeep and driving off. He was forced to ignore the people bleeding and crying on the streets as he crossed the exit out of the city. The almost simple welcome. Crazy time to jump in, but a great time nonetheless. Links in the pin. Hope you're having a good weekend so far. Welcome. Finally, he could breathe again. Or so he thought. His sigh of relief quickly turned into a cough, then into a splatter of blood that spilled down his lap. He glanced down at his body and saw 2 bullet holes had ripped through his clothes, and the blood around them was expanding fast. Oh no. To add insult to injury, his Jeep started to clink and sputter before slowing down to a halt, stranding him in the middle of the road. Damn it, Santo muttered to himself. Did the engine get shot? That was a deepest grin, Glaffer giggle. Yeah, that's my charm point. Yeah, the adrenaline carried him. It's like when that aircraft came in, he got shot as well, and he didn't realize it until just now.
Yeah, it's a hunch.
I can't turn to a hunch right now because I'm on a different screen, but I can. He opened the door and attempted to step out to take a look, yet he found himself tripping and falling onto the road instead. His body had lost a lot of energy already. Even when he tried to move, the best he could do was flip himself onto his back. Gray clouds rolled in as he stared up at them, watching them pass by as he fought to breathe through the blood bubbling up his throat. A single snowflake floated down the sky, then another, the number increasing until a flurry of snowflakes landed on the ground and on top of him. It was cold. It was getting too cold. Yeah, like I said, we're getting to the tragedy. The quietness of the desert was broken by the sound of a cell phone ringing, but he couldn't answer it. It was still in the car. It kept ringing and ringing and ringing. It lit up with a picture of a young Nina, smiling while hugging a stuffed bear from the cover, on the day she received her mechanical arms. As it continued to ring, then the silence returned once more. Santo hoped the children were all right. He tried his best to teach them to be smart and resourceful, but they were still kids. Not a single child he had saved was an adult yet. There was so much he had to do. There was so much he wanted to do. The skies grew darker and the air got colder, or so he wanted to believe. His vision had gotten too blurred to see. His hands were too stiff to move, and his blood pooled around the snow. Was it even actually snow? Or was it soot from the war he could never run from? The war none of them could escape. Even if it was all hopeless, they had to try. They had to keep on living. Santo had many, many regrets in his life, and perhaps this was God's punishment finally coming to get him, yet he didn't care. It was never his life that he cared about, as much as he knew it would annoy them. He wanted to apologize to his friends again. He was going to leave them behind and force them to pick up where he left off. He'll have to treat them to a nice dinner to make it up to them. Yes, that should be enough. He had done enough. Slowly, calmly, and at peace, he closed his eyes and drifted to sleep. And that's the end of Santo. Chapter 13, of course. And there's 50 chapters! So yeah, save me fixing those typos. 2 chapters to go. Woo!
And it's not gonna get any better!
Yeah. It's sad to see him go. Trying to get the snot out before I read this next chapter. Keeps creeping up on me. But yeah, like I said, the teddy bear on the cover. There it is. Okay, I think I cleared out enough boogies. All right. Chapter 14. Yeah, I gotta kill the boogers. Like I killed Santo. So, rewinding time a bit. Just a little bit. Mr. Midas erupted into a fit of laughter the moment Santo had left, clutching his stomach as amused tears dripped down his round cheeks. Miles stood still and stoic as a statue, his calm facade masking the conflict of emotions creeping in behind his sunglasses. Oh boy, he's so clueless! He shouted between laughs. He doesn't know what's coming to him. How I wish I could watch the look on his face when the air raid happens. It's within the next hour, isn't it? Miles asked. Will he be back in Nevertown in time to witness it? Regaining his composure, Mr. Midas wagged a finger and clicked his tongue. Miles, you're a good man, but this is why you follow orders instead of making them. The air raid isn't going to be exclusive to Nevertown. It's going to start here and gradually make its way over there. Miles's eyes widened large enough to be seen through his sunglasses. Here, sir? I don't understand. Mr. Midas shifted his gaze to the fireplace, observing the flames burn through the logs until they fell to ash. It's simple. I had a notice sent to every home and business except Heffman Mechanics and Sunset, the two places that Talus and Freya work at respectively, warning people of the incoming danger and setting up underground shelters for those that needed it. I also had someone leak to the terrorists false information about the planned air raid, making them believe that no government officials would be in the city during that time. They'll go after the rats who didn't receive the notice, and the air raid will shoot them down. He smiled proudly to himself as he imagined the plan set in place. An excellent extermination, if I do say so myself. Miles was left with his mouth agape, baffled by this plan. It did explain why the roads had been quiet today. Yet there had to be flaws to this plan. How could he be so confident it would go so smoothly? As if he read his mind, Mr. Mice continued. We already confirmed that all known bases have been cleared out in fear of attack. They think they're going to be so smart by having a leg up on them, going after the golden eggs left unprotected, not realizing the eagles never actually left. As for the notice, he giggled, playfully poking his cheek like a guilty child. I described the terrorists as disguising themselves as rats, so all contact with them was to be avoided for everyone's safety. If no one talks to them, no one can warn them. Yeah, so basically the poor, the homeless, and the needy were basically told, go fuck yourself, you're gonna die. While literally everyone else in the city is hiding in shelters, and they're all perfectly fine. Sir, that's... Yeah, realistic. Exactly. It's like the terrorists are disguising themselves as poor people, so don't talk to the poor people or you could get hurt. Sir, that's... Miles didn't even know what to say at this point. That seems unfair to those people, at least in my opinion. Mr. Mice shrugged his shoulders and casually replied, It's not a lie. That is their plan, blending in with the trash to catch people off guard. But it will be fine. Anyone who dies today would have died in the next week or month, so we're really doing them a mercy. He then stood up from his seat and dusted off his white suit. Anyway, it's time. Let's get to the shelter. The missus already went ahead of us. Miles knew following the man would be the smart decision, yet it wouldn't be the right one. There had to be something he could do. As he tried to sort out his thoughts, he pulled out his phone and started searching the internet for answers. Do you mind if I make a call before we go? Miles asked. Mr. Mice nodded and began to walk away. That's fine, but do make it quick. I'll be going on ahead. Miles waited for his boss to be out of sight and sound, then pulled up the number of a certain mechanic shop to call. He took a deep breath and kept his hand steady as he pressed the phone against his ear, praying the call wouldn't be missed. Thankfully, after 2 rings, a man on the other line answered, Effman Mechanics, how can I help you? It's Miles. We met the other day when I came to pick up Judas. Oh, fuck, thought I recognized you. What's up? Listen, you're all in danger. There's going to be an air raid and it's going to bomb both Glamour and Nevertown. He knows you and Freya are working for Santo. The children need to be taken to a shelter immediately. Silence. At first, Miles was worried something happened, but a long sigh confirmed the man had heard everything. Ah, shit, Talus cursed. Miles could hear the panic in the man's voice. All right, I'm heading over to Nevertown now. Thanks. So you believe me? Yeah, didn't seem like the joking type. Miles cracked a small smile, taking whatever he could to ease the tension. You're right. I'm calling Sunset next. Good luck. You too. Hope your boss doesn't mind you doing this. He won't be my boss much longer. Good. They ended the call there, and Miles took off his sunglasses to see better while searching for his next call. Yeah, so Miles is like, fuck this shit. I quit. I'm doing the right thing. Or at least trying to. Meanwhile, Talus scrabbled together everything he needed in a hurry to get ready to leave. Hearing the ruckus going on, Siri curiously peeked his head out from the workshop, not sure if he should be concerned. Seeing the boy come out, Talus practically said, Go down to the cellar and don't come out. I'll call you later when it's clear. Yeah, it's like, fuck you. Siri tilted his head, confused. What's going on? Can I help? No, it's too dangerous. Just do what I say. Siri decided not to push it, seeing how badly it was affecting Talus. I'll be waiting. Don't die out there. Talus took a brief break from his panic to give Siri a reassuring thumbs up. I won't. As soon as Talus got into his truck and drove off, he knew right away something was off. It wasn't until he passed the rusted gates that his fears were confirmed, as an explosion echoed from the city behind him. He realized it was in the direction towards the market, and he hoped Santo hadn't been there. He tried to call him while he was driving, but he didn't pick up. Since that didn't work, he changed to calling the Nevertown emergency phone lines. There was one for each dorm, so he was hoping someone would be inside. Yeah, so Talus just barely missed the air raid. Like, as soon as he exited the city, boom, it went off. So he was able to get out just in time. His first try with the girls' dorms was a failure, but luckily the boys' dorms was a success. Hello? Russell answered. Hey, Russ, Talus said. We got a major problem. I need to get all the kids together. Are we in danger? Very. Okay, I'll let everyone know. What about? The line got cut off after that. Something was interfering with the reception, and it likely had to do with whatever was going on in Glamour. Talus gripped his steering wheel and prayed that Freya and Santo were safe. Dramatic irony. All of the children were standing outside the entrance to the chapel when Talus finally arrived, all clearly confused and worried about the situation. Okay, good. You're all here, Talus said. They looked up at the chapel. This is the shelter, right? Melinda nodded and explained. It has a lockdown protocol. We've practiced it before, but it can't be unlocked for 24 hours once it starts, so we wanted to wait until you got here. Talus sighed and scratched his head. Of course he would come up with something that crazy. It's not that bad. There's an escape hatch inside if we need to leave. Chaz glanced back and forth at Talus in his truck, then asked, Where's Mr. Santo? And Siri? Siri's fine, Talus answered. We got a cellar for him to hide in, but I don't know about Santo. I would have thought he'd come back by now. Talus brought out his phone to try calling him one last time. Yet like all the other attempts he had made along the way, it went unanswered. Forced to give up on that method, but also seeing how scared the children were, Talus said, I'll go look for him. I bet he got stranded outside of town or something. Ha! Dramatic irony. Russell stepped forward and boldly replied, I'll come and help. Me too, Chaz said. Talus quickly shook his head. Hell no, it's too dangerous. But what if he's lost in Glamour? Melinda countered. Wouldn't it be better to search in numbers? I want to help too. I can't just sit by and do nothing. Again, following up her character development. Neither can I, Nina said, placing a hand on Melinda's shoulder as she joined her side. Talus groaned and rubbed his temples. You've got more important things to worry about, like protecting the other kids. I could take care of that, Wesley said. Me too, Angelica added eagerly as she jumped up and down to get his attention. Dennis and Freddie, the two younger guards, it's like, they weren't mentioned too much, but here they are. One of them's got the eye patch. Dennis and Freddie straightened themselves and gave a soldier salute. We'll protect him too, Dennis stated confidently. Yeah, as guards do, Freddie said. Piper and Rydia exchanged looks with each other. They were both debating on whether they should volunteer to help find Santo or protect the children. While they knew about Glamour more than anyone else, the way John and Georgina clung to the hems of their clothes made it hard to consider leaving them alone. Eventually, Piper made her decision and said, I'll protect the kids too. Rydia, you should go. They'll probably be at the market, and you know how to get there. Rydia shook her head. You can go too if you want. I don't mind staying. Georgina gets fussy about canned food. Oh, forgot about her accent. You can go too if you want. I don't mind staying. Georgina gets fussy about canned food, and I'm better at feeding her. Piper looked down at her legs. Because, she has crutches. Yeah, it's like, barely kept up by her crutches. Like, yeah, I put that in there, right. Then back up at her sister. No, I'd only slow them down. Winona used this as her chance to choose a side. Handing Jermaine to Wesley, she said, I've been there. I'll do it. You keep Jermaine safe. Wesley held Jermaine close and nodded. Will do. Jermaine's sad expression as he was handed off was heartbreaking, his lower lip quivering as he held back his tears. Winona reached out a hand to gently stroke his cheek. I'll be back soon, Winona tenderly assured him. Be good. Seeing where this was going, Talos threw his hands up in surrender and begrudgingly said, Okay, fine. That's all the kids I could fit in my truck. The rest of you are staying here. Now move! Aiko and Nina exchanged a good luck hug before Nina got into the truck. Wesley gave Chaz a fist bump with his free hand. Russell held out a hand for Melinda to help her get on. Lastly, Winona waved to Jermaine, who meekly returned a gesture as he watched her go. The truck drove around and back out of Nevertown, off to search for Santo and leaving the children to fend for themselves. So to recap, it's Nina, Chaz, Russell, Melinda, and Winona. Those are the 5 that went with Talos to go look for Santo. Everyone else stayed behind. They didn't waste time standing around. Everyone went inside the chapel, and Wesley locked the double doors behind them. Aiko went to the hidden control panel behind the podium, while Piper and Rydia investigated the supply room. The supply room had enough water bottles and canned food to last everyone up to 3 days if sorted properly, so that was what they intended to do in case the worst was to come. Once the lights were turned on, Aiko input the password and initiated the lockdown protocol. Fortified steel rolled down the windows and the doors, blocking out the sunlight and anything else from the inside. The control panel lit up with a 24-hour timer ticking down, locking them in until it either went down to 0 or Santo used his admin key to override it. Judas suddenly appeared from behind Aiko and said, Oh, so that's what that does. I saw it earlier but didn't know anything about it. Aiko nearly jumped from the surprise. Yet she managed to avoid bumping her head. Yes. The older children know about it. We don't tell the younger children. Huh, I see. Rather than further comment, Judas returned back to Timmy, who was trying to dry out his fluffy blonde hair with a towel after being interrupted while showering. Dennis and Freddy were sitting near him on one of the benches. I thought you took showers at night, Freddy said. Did something happen? Timmy averted his gaze. Yeah, I got, dirty. We were playing here and got carried away, Judas answered while slinging an arm over his shoulder. We cleaned it up, though. You wouldn't even know anything happened. Dennis narrowed his one eye. You're a slippery one, ain't ya? Judas smirked. You know it. Now come on, Timmy. Judas then dragged Timmy along over towards the escape hatch. Saying this, Wesley stepped around and blocked their paths, crossing his arms with a firm stance. Where are you two going? He asked. Checking the situation, obviously, Judas replied nonchalantly. We'll come back once we're sure it's clear. It'd be too bad. It'd be bad if we didn't look and we wound up in some kind of trap, wouldn't it? We're used to being fast, Timmy added. We won't run into any trouble. Wesley thought about it for a moment, then sighed, moving aside to let them go. Get back in here in an hour, you hear? Otherwise, I'm coming after y'all. I was like, Wesley's also a little southern. The boys nodded, then started their climb down into the tunnels. With things sorted out for the time being, the older children pulled out some board games and toys for the younger children to play with to pass the time. Angelica showed Dennis and Freddy how to play her favorite game. Georgina, John, and Jermaine sat on the floor while waving their stuffed animals around and playing pretend. Mikey, one cookie, Georgina said while holding up her pink rabbit. John raised his green dinosaur and growled, Dino wants cookies too. Rawr! Let's bake cookies, Jermaine said as he swung around his teddy bear. Rydia and Piper smiled as they watched the children play from the sidelines, relieved to see them giggling and playing despite the circumstances. Piper then shifted her attention to Rishi, who was sitting alone on the bench. Do you think Rishi is okay? she asked. Rydia looked over to where Rishi was, frowning a bit from concern.
Bless his heart, he must be worried about Santo. This is our first time doing this without him.
As if to confirm their suspicion, Rishi burst out into an ear-splitting wail, causing everyone to stop what they were doing. Piper quickly limped over to see what was wrong. Wesley also rated himself nearby in case it escalated. Hey, Rishi, Piper said calmly as she sat down next to him.
It's okay, buddy. Santo should be back.
She was cut off by a loud rumbling beneath her feet, shaking everything around them. Everyone glanced around the room and at each other, completely confused. Was it an attack? It sounded like it happened underground. Ayako was the first to put things together and gasped. Wesley, open the hatch! She yelled. Wesley did as ordered and opened the escape hatch, his face turning pale at the sight. What should have been a tunnel had crumbled into a cavern stuffed with rocks, meaning their emergency exit had been destroyed. What the hell? Wesley exclaimed. He tried to get in there and see if he could move some rocks to clear the path. Unfortunately, there was simply too many, and trying to move them caused more to tumble in from above. Wesley was forced to give up and climb back up to give everyone the bad news. We're trapped, Wesley stated while holding back his frustration. We'll have to wait the whole 24 hours. We won't run out of air, will we? Aiko asked in a panic.
We won't,
Rydia said.
There's vents that keep the air circulated. That's what Mr. Santos said.
Aiko breathed out a sigh of relief, but she wouldn't be feeling that way for long. The crackling of firecrackers erupted from behind a stack of crates by the window curtains, igniting the flammable material around it and creating a fire that rapidly spread through its surroundings. Fire! Angelica cried. Get the kids away from the fire! The young children screamed in terror while Rydia rushed back into the supply room to grab the fire extinguishers. She knew they had 3 set up for emergencies, so that should be enough to take out the fire. She grabbed one of them, rushed out, and aimed her shot at the source. Yet, when she squeezed the handle, nothing came out. It was empty. What? She said, baffled by this. We never used these. They should still be good. They're all empty, Piper shouted from the supply room. Should we use the water bottles? Rydia groaned and threw down the useless item. Oh, we have no choice. Shouldn't there be sprinklers? Ayako said. Guess they're empty too. We'll worry about that later. Help us. Rydia, Piper, and Ayako grabbed as much as they could carry and tried to toss the water into the fire, yet it didn't seem to do anything. The fire roared, taunting them as it continued to spread. Why isn't it working? I don't know. What was in those crates? I don't know. Meanwhile, Wesley was desperately searching for any way they could escape. He put all of his strength into the steel windows and doors, begging them to budge, yet they refused. What should have been their shield had now become their cage, and soon their tomb. Fuck! Wesley shouted as he slammed his fist against the cold steel. He had to do something. He was the oldest one here and the strongest out of any of them. So why was he so powerless when they needed him most? The girls ran out of things to toss and were forced to give up. Their panting interrupted by coughing as the air began to thin. Dennis, Freddie, and Angelica had gotten the rest of the children to the opposite corner of the fire and were standing in front to protect them. Georgina and John were inconsolable, crying and holding on to each other. Jermaine rubbed John's back with one hand while covering his mouth with another. Resigning to their fate, the girls rejoined the group. Thanks, guys, Rydia said as she took Georgina and John back into her arms. You did a good job. I'm not letting the fire get anyone, Angelica said. Mr. Shanto should be back soon. He'll help us. Yeah, Piper said, deciding to play along. He'll be back soon, so we should just avoid the fire, okay? It shouldn't get to us if we stay over here. Aiko opened her mouth, about to correct her, then closed it. There was no point. They all huddled together in the corner, struggling to breathe while black smoke filled the chapel. The growing intense heat pricked their skin and stung their eyes. It eventually became too difficult to even stand, yet those who were stubborn refused to pass out so soon. Piper rested her head on her sister's shoulder and said, Hey, sis, I'm sorry. I should have gone to surgery. If I had, maybe. Rydia hushed her and adjusted her arms so the 4 of them could be embraced together. There was no point in arguing or lamenting past mistakes. The fire was going to take all of that away, leaving only ash behind. If nothing else, they could pray to be put at peace. It was a chapel, after all. Perhaps someone would hear them. So as Wesley was the last to fall after struggling the most, Lydia prayed. She prayed with all her might. There was nothing else they could do. Judas and Timmy stood at the top of the cliffs, watching the black smoke roll out from the chapel below. Timmy was devastated, hyperventilating while gripping at his horrified face. Judas showed no emotion, simply clutching the black duffel bag that was slung over his shoulder. "What's going on down there?" Timmy asked frantically. You pushed that button, and then the tunnel collapsed. What did you do?" "It's not my fault," Judas stated plainly. "I was ordered to." "Who?" "Doesn't matter." Timmy fell to his knees, sobbing into his hands. Even when seeing his friend in such a state, Judas did nothing. "Anyway, I got what I needed to," Judas said as he looked down at his bag. "Don't know what he needed exactly, so I just took everything from Sato's office. Thanks for all the help." Timmy didn't respond, his pathetic cries being all he had to offer. As a black car rolled up from the road, Judas sighed and began to walk away from his friend. "Whatever. Go die with them if you want. I don't care." Timmy stopped crying after that. He was disturbingly quiet. Judas turned around to see his friend had gone off the ground and was slowly dragging his feet towards the edge of the cliff. He looked away before he could see what his friend would do and left without another word. So yeah, they're all dead. So now I can finally tell you guys what inspired me to write this. I can update the chapter because I fixed a couple typos. All right, so what had happened was it all came to me in a dream. No, unironically. I had a nightmare one night. It was a very, very vivid dream, like freakishly so, where there was a church burning. And it's like I tried to like bang on the windows. It's like I heard children screaming in the church. I'm banging on the windows trying to see if I could like break the windows, and all I could hear was the children burning as the fire was engulfing them in the black smoke and everything. So that nightmare, it's like I woke up, I was like, oh, Jesus Christ, whoa, what the fuck was that? And it didn't leave my mind, and it festered into this story. So that was the inspiration for my story. It came to me in a dream. So, to review. Russell's alive. Santo's dead. Melinda, Chaz are alive. Nina's alive. Winnowa's alive. Judas is still alive. Talus is good. Ceres is good. Freya's is good. Edgar, Odelia, Miles. Yeah. Everyone else, dead. In the most brutal, horrible way possible. All right. Final chapter. And boy, what a chapter. I had this final chapter in my head for years. So to finally write it was quite satisfying. Let me tell you. 3 years had passed since the air raid. Everything was quiet and peaceful as Glamour recovered from the damage. Its buildings reconstructed and its roads repaved as they were as good as new. The overseas reinforcements were supportive in assisting in the process, and the people were content and comfortable with their presence around. However, once their job was finished and they had to leave, the bandits returned once more. Thus, all had returned to what it once was, with only a few rats in the gutters being missed. Thus, fucking nothing was accomplished from this. War sucks. Freya sat at the dinner table in the mansion of Glamour's finest philanthropist, Mr. Midas. The man had made countless deals with businesses, no matter how big or small, to help get them back on their feet after the incident. People believed that without him, the entire economy might have collapsed. No one questioned the reliability and integrity of Midas Trading Company despite its shady past. Especially not Sunset, who was one of those businesses that Mr. Midas had saved after the air raid obliterated it. Freya wouldn't be sitting here if she hadn't left early due to an emergency phone call by a certain person, you know, who said they were going to call last chapter, or 2 chapters ago, rather. Or was it a chapter ago? It was a chapter ago. Losing track. It's so good to have you finally stop by, Mr. Midas said, raising up a glass with a cocky grin. I knew you'd come to see things my way. I did, Freya stated without a hint of emotion as she poured the bottle she had brought with her. It was Mr. Midas' favorite champagne, the same one he loved spilling all over the place in a messy waterfall. Once both glasses were filled, they clinked their glasses together in a toast, just like always. Mr. Midas happily gulped down his drink, while Freya kept her glass idly in her hand. Mr. Midas breathed out a joyous sigh and said, delicious as usual, though it does seem a little different. Less bubbles. Is this a fresh bottle? Freya shrugged her shoulders. It's what my boss gave me. Fair enough. The table was filled with the finest foods money could buy, from white truffle pasta to foie gras to Kobe beef. Mr. Midas wasted no time grabbing at everything he wanted to fill his plate, while Freya merely plucked a few things here and there. They were left alone to enjoy this food to themselves, with his 2 guards standing outside the dining room by the closed doors. I do miss Miles, Mr. Midas. Whoops, that's a big typo. Mr. Midas admitted. I had to hire 2 people to do half the work he could. But I don't blame him. The incident must have triggered his... what do you call it? He carelessly waved a fork around while he thought about it, splattering bits of priceless oil around. Post-trauma, yes, that's right. We were all terribly affected by the incident, Freya said, her voice as smooth and cold as his marbled statues. It didn't matter who you were or what your status was. Quite. He stabbed at a piece of pork covered in gold foil, gazing at it longingly. It was even too much for my poor Nugget. It's been lonely here without her. My condolences. Mr. Midas sighed and popped the meat into his mouth. It's all right. I wouldn't have been able to adopt Judas otherwise. He's the best son I could have hoped for. Santo didn't have him long, but it was enough to teach him to respect his elders. Yeah, so, Odelia's dead. Why? Gee, I wonder. I mean, it could have been because of what happened. Could have been because of something else. I mean, certainly was because of old age. I'm just saying. But anyway, Freya gripped her gold utensils hard enough to make her hand shake, yet she maintained her composure. It was kind of you to take him in after what happened. Oh, it was nothing. It was the least I could do. Although, I do think he could use a mother. He's still a growing boy, and a mother's love is the one thing I can't buy for him. I know he thinks highly of you. Perhaps you could consider... Yeah, it's like maybe she died from doing a back kickflip and landing badly. Yeah, you know, maybe. Mr. Midas was forcibly cut off by a violent cough, followed by several more. Confused, he reached for his drink to wash it down, yet the coughing wouldn't stop. He couldn't breathe. His hands desperately gripped the table as the world spun around him, but all that accomplished was dragging the tablecloth down with him as he fell to the floor. Glass shattered, forks clattered, and food spilled across pristine white cloth. Freya calmly stood up from her seat and approached the suffering man, towering over him with a stare that burned with an intense hatred. She then kicked him straight in the stomach, and the contents from his dinner flooded out of his mouth. Even as he was gasping and silently crying in his own mess, she showed no sympathy. You're a fucking joke, Freya growled. Asking me to marry you after you took everything away from me! She kicked him again, harder this time. How dare you! I never liked you! You killed the man I loved! You hurt everyone I cared about! I picked out this poison and bribed your guards so you would suffer for as long as possible. Mr. Midas was left utterly powerless, reduced to a bloated rag doll for Freya to enact her fury upon. Minutes crawled for an eternity with no escape in sight, no way to pay for this problem to go away. The air that tried to travel through his narrowing throat eventually thinned too much, and his vision darkened as he slowly suffocated. The last thing he heard before he died was Freya's anguished screams. Yep, she poisoned him. That's why she didn't drink it. If you notice, it said she didn't drink it. Only he drank it. As for the question of how could Freya bribe guards, she's a woman. Yeah, and he said the bubbles were off. Yep. It's like that foreshadowing. I put in that foreshadowing. Yes. Good to pick up on that foreshadowing. Yes, I am cute when I'm clever. That means I'm cute all the time. Yes. Like, yes. I love being smart. Meanwhile, Nevertown had been secured by Mr. Midas after the air raid. He used the documents Judas had brought him to make some arrangements and bribe some law officials to put his family back as the rightful owners of the property. Because of this, the survivors who tried to come home were barred from entry, forced to find shelter elsewhere. So answering the question of, where are they now? Luckily, Talus was able to use his past connections to get them a temporary apartment in Glamour. It wasn't easy, yet they had the skills they needed to survive. They spent these last 3 years working jobs to get by, the girls cooking and cleaning at a restaurant while the boys tinkered at the mechanic shop. Parallel to Freya and Talus. They caused no fuss, no mess, and never complained. Only at night did they show their true selves, comforting one another when they cried or had another nightmare. But today, that would change. Today, the 5 remaining children, now matured into adults, were going to take back Nevertown. Cutie action! The group huddled together up on the cliffs to observe the situation from below, scanning the area with their own binoculars. Their buildings had been replaced with warehouses for storage, and there was a total of 2 guards patrolling the entire area. Just 2 guards? Chaz said while tilting his head, perplexed by this. Why the small security? He likely made a deal with the bandits, Melinda said. They might also have other people on standby. Russell looked over to Talus, who was hanging around the truck loaded with weapons. Can you jam his signal? Can birds fly? Talus replied with a smirk. Talus gave him a thumbs up, then turned his attention to Nina, who was loading her rifle. What do you think? Can you take out both? Doubt it, Nina answered honestly, grinding a spare bullet between her teeth. 1? Definitely. I'd say you guys should jump in after I take the shot. 4 against 1 would be easier, Winnoa said. 2, actually, Melinda said hesitantly, then pointed towards where the chapel used to be. Look! Everyone shifted their view over to where she pointed. The building there was different. It was a rectangular wooden shack, painted yellow with a white roof. The white steps were wooden as well, and it was at least big enough for a line of several people to fit in with their arms stretched out. This is important. That wasn't what caught Melinda's attention, though. What had gotten her nervous was who was guarding it. There stood an older Judas, decked out in military gear and holding a lightweight, semi-automatic rifle. The last 3 years had been good to him. Even if his earthy hair was still long and mane-like, he was much taller and his features had sharpened, shaping him into a handsome young man. Damn it, Judas! Russell cursed out loud. Hearing the boy's name, Siri poked his head out from the truck and said, Judas is here? I don't know. Are you sure you guys want to do this? Definitely, Chaz stated firmly. Absolutely, Winnoa said with the same resolve. Siri sighed and looked to Talus for guidance, who simply stood there while lighting a cigarette. Let him have this, Talus said gently. But Talus blew out a smoke, watching it roll away with the wind. It's their business. We're just here for backup. Siri frowned. Fine. I just hope they'll be okay. Me too, Siri. Me too. The group had readied themselves while the two were talking, each one picking up a weapon of their choice, and the attack team began to make their descent down the cliffs. Melinda was on scout duty, keeping an eye out in case the situation changed. While Chaz, Russell, and Winnoa circled around the perimeter, using the warehouses to their advantage to stealthily weave through. Nina positioned herself on the ground with her sniper rifle, taking aim at her target. Her sturdy, robotic arms were exceptionally useful here, not having to worry as much about recoil. She had spent less time cooking and more time practicing with Miles precisely for this moment. There was no need to feel remorse. They would do the same to her for the right price. She waited for the guard to stop moving, closed one eye, and coldly pulled the trigger. Boom! Right through his face. Yeah, so the question of, where's Miles? He doesn't say anything in this chapter, but it's like, on the question of, how the fuck did these kids be able to fight two guards and use weapons and shit? Miles. There's your answer. It's like Miles was involved after the incident. How much? Don't worry about it. Up for interpretation. As expected, it didn't take long for the other guard to hear the noise. It didn't take long for the other guard to hear the noise and discover what happened. He tried to call for backup on his radio, yet all he received was static. Yeah, they got a lot of mileage out of him. Oh ho 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 ho. While he was fumbling around with it, trying to figure out what was going on, the attack team made their move. Chaz sent in the first wave of shots, a stream of bullets towards the guard, but his aim wasn't as accurate as Nina's. The guard was able to reel back and dodge, quickly getting his gun ready to shoot back. As the guard frantically turned his head left and right in the direction of the bullets, he failed to notice the figure sneaking up from behind until it was too late. Winnoa jumped from the shadows onto the guard's back, lifted up his chin, and stabbed his neck before he even had a chance to react. His reflexes reacted by pulling the trigger, yet all it did was send a few stray shots at the air. The guard choked on his blood and died in seconds, dropping to the ground as soon as Winnoa let go. I did Google how long it had to take for a person to die if they're stabbed in the neck. It's like, yeah, if you hit an artery, quickly. If you don't hit an artery, a while. But, you know, it's the neck. You go, ah. I'm probably on a watch list now for all the things I Googled for this chapter. Russell went towards the shack, forced to walk out in the open once he reached the end of the line of warehouses. He trusted the others to take care of everything else. This he wanted to sell himself for his own selfish reasons. You know, so it's like all coming back together from chapter 1, with having Russell be the star of this part. Judas saw him approach, but rather than get his gun ready, he smirked. Hey, Russell, it's been a while. How have you been? Russell's brows were furrowed and his expression was stern, having zero intent to play nice with him. We're here for Nevertown. We're taking it back. Judas burst out laughing in response, clutching his side with a hand as he replied, Seriously? Seriously? Man, you've got a grudge, huh? He grasped his gun with both hands and pulled the safety, pointing the barrel directly at Russell. Fine. What's one more dead orphan at this point, am I right? Like mocking him so hard. Russell shifted his body to get ready to run from the left, and Judas aimed accordingly. But this turned out to be a feint. He instead ducked and charged forward, going straight for him. Judas lacked the training Russell had to fight, having spent all these years living in laziness and luxury. Thus, when it really mattered, he panicked. His body froze. His finger was mere centimeters from the trigger, but couldn't commit to the act. By the time his mind registered what was going on, Russell had already tackled him to the ground. His gun was ripped from him and tossed aside like a toy, buried in the sand without ever going off. Judas struggled under Russell's weight, yet he kept him pinned down with ease. Fuck! Judas shouted. How'd you get this strong? Miles taught me, Russell answered. We all worked hard for this. Judas stopped fighting it. admitting defeat, and chuckled. Wow, how nice. I bet you could take Wesley in a fight. Do fight, don't ever fight out. Russell slapped him hard across the face, stunning him into silence. Russell then pulled out a combat knife from his pocket and raised it high above Judas, aiming at his chest. Judas tried to smile at this, but the fear was clear in his eyes. Hey, wait! Judas pleaded nervously. Santo wouldn't like this. Didn't he say everyone has a right to live? Russell's eyes were hollow, showing no semblance of mercy. You lost that right the moment you stole it from others. The knife was thrust deep into his chest, down to the hilt. Judas stared down at the knife in absolute horror, and then laughed. He laughed as loud as he could before his blood churned up his throat and out his mouth. As Judas laid there coughing up his blood, feeling his body rapidly go cold, he managed to choke out one final mockery. Glad we have that in common now. And with that, Judas closed his eyes for the last time, drifting into an eternal sleep. Everyone had regrouped and ran up to Russell by the time he got off of him. Upon seeing his corpse, everyone's faces was a mix of different emotions, ranging from shock to horror to downright anger. Winnow was the first to react, storming over to the body to kneel down and grab it by the collar. Don't you think you're getting off easily? Winnow yelled, then whacked the corpse with a swift punch to the face. Then another. Then another. Then another. All the while she continued, Give them back! Give them back, you bastard! Give me back my baby brother! Nina was the next person to do something, going over to Winnow to pull her off the body. Winnow panted heavily as she watched Nina follow up by repeatedly stomping on it. You fucking bastard! Nina shouted with each stomp. You're going to rot now! I had to tell Ayako's mom what you fucking did! You made a mother cry for her lost daughter! I'll never forgive you! Russell felt his heart clench at the reminder. During their time in Glamour, they did manage to track down Ayako's missing mother and save her from being locked up in some pervert's basement. Yeah, this was mentioned several chapters back that Ayako is not an orphan. It's just that her mother went missing and was presumed dead, but she wasn't. They explained how they knew Ayako and that they were a friend of hers, but obviously her mother was going to want to know where she was now. The face she made upon hearing the devastating news was forever burned into their memories. Dallas lastly stepped forward and placed a hand on each of the girls' shoulders. Ladies, it's time to stop. It's over. They both looked away, but didn't protest. Are we just waiting on Freya now? Melinda asked, trying to change subjects. As if on cue, Talus's cell phone went off. He released the girls and answered it, putting it on speaker for everyone to hear. Hey, Freya? Talus said. How'd it go? It was a success, Freya answered. I have the documents. Including the contract? Yes, as we thought, Santo left the property to the children in his will. In the event none of them were of legal age, we would be acting guardians. Think this'll hold up in court? We have to try, Miles said. While they were discussing the legal details, Russell couldn't help but be drawn to the wooden shack. Judas had no idea how to use a gun, yet he chose to protect it regardless. Seeing his friend's curiosity, Chaz asked, You want to see what's inside? Russell nodded, and the two walked up the steps to the wooden door. The door was unlocked, allowing Russell to push it open without issue. When he saw what was inside, his jaw dropped, and Chaz stared from behind in complete bewilderment. Guys, Russell said, barely able to contain his astonishment. You have to see this. Russell and Chaz moved aside for the group to look, yet their gaze never left it. Some gasped and others covered their mouths, unable to believe the sight in front of them. Rows upon rows of flowers, from lilies to roses to carnations in various colors, all lined around the shack in a crescent shape. In the garden of flowers were framed pictures of all the children in Evertown, likely taken from Santo's office. In the center of the display was a painted portrait of Santo, beautifully depicting him as an angel gathering faceless children into his loving arms. It's a memorial, Melinda whispered as tears formed around her eyes. Noah went inside to inspect the photos until she found the one she was looking for. It was a picture of her showing Jermaine how to play with his new train. She swiped the picture from its stand and held it close to her chest, hugging it tightly as she started to cry. Nina did the same for Ayako, managing to find a picture of them setting up a party together before the tears streaming down her face blocked her vision. Russell held his head in his hands, the reality of his sin finally getting to him. Russell had cared after all, and he killed him. Chaz snapped him out of it by grabbing both of his shoulders. Hey, look, this doesn't change what he did. This was his way of coping, but a killer who feels bad is still a killer. We're all killers now, Russell said. Chaz pulled Russell into a hug to hide his anguish. I know. Melinda couldn't help herself from joining in on the hug, and the boys accepted her without hesitation. Even as she was weeping, she tried her best to comfort them. It's okay, guys. It's going to be okay. They weren't sure if that was true, but they believed it anyway. They had to. They had to fight for the future Santo wanted for them. He had given them everything they needed to survive. All they had to do was combine their tools and skills, and they could rebuild. They could help more people and help each other. Everyone has the right to live. They would never forget that and never let go. The end. That's it. That's how it ends. So yeah, that was War in Nevertown. Yeah, I told you it was a tragedy. A horrible, terrible tragedy. It just took, a dozen or so chapters for horrible things to start happening. That's all. But yeah, it's like, overall, I'm glad that I finished this. Like I said, there is a part of me that's like, could I have written more? Yeah, but there was the risk that if I wrote more, A, it could have made things more complicated, and B, it wouldn't have mattered. It's like, could I have written chapters fleshing out more kids and more character development or expanding on the world and everything? Yeah, I could have. But I think it functions. I think it being a short story is perfectly fine. With so many characters, it's like it would have been too confusing. Keep a track of everyone. Hence why I even had to make a heckin' reference sheet. So I'm pretty content with what I've done. I'm glad that I finished it. And I appreciate you all watching and come to my streams and giving me feedback and all that good stuff. So yeah, that's the end of this stream. Thank you all so much for coming. And as for future projects, well, I'm trying to get my lore shit together because my New Year's resolution is to do more lore stuff. I have a lore video coming. I want to do a cover that's lore based. And I also want to do like more roleplay stuff, so expect good things in the upcoming months. As for something like this, I don't see myself writing a novel. But if I were to like work on like a project, maybe I was thinking like an RPG Maker game or something, hypothetically. Yeah, let me find someone to raid. I don't think I've raided this person in a while. I don't even know. I can't keep track of the people I raid anymore. But yeah, thank you all so much for coming. Thanks for all the follows. Thanks for chatting. Oh, he's good. And then I'll be back to video games. Play more Pikachu on Tuesday. Alright, I got that. Yes, good night, everyone. Rest well. Eat your vegetables. And be good to the children. Don't set them on fire. Good night.